Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Wednesday the 4th of August 2010. I'm your host Dan Train. Joining me this week, Zachary Burgess.
No.
And Robert Kemp.
Yes.
I wonder if that's become the new order.
What, Zach then me?
Well,
Yeah.
I was more prepared for it this time. I was not drinking or anything.
He didn't have to blub his water all over his expensive new computer.
That would be bad.
Hi.
I don't think that's really in Zach's style to blubber over his keyboard. I don't know. Although
There'd
you
just
did
be
use
an
that.
awkward silence, I reckon, actually. There'd be sort of like a... Hi. There.
Yeah.
Well,
Probably.
weren't you listening last week when I
Yeah,
basically did that?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm basing it off.
But it was very quiet. It was fairly dignified. It was just a short pause. Unfortunately, it wasn't very spectacular.
Drama.
You know that old keyboard you had, Zach, before this new one?
Yes.
That you had. How long? You had it since you got that computer. So quite a few. Did you clean it?
Yes. Regularly.
What?
Oh,
This is
very
about
good.
cleaning his keyboard, and what keyboard was it, and what?
It
I'm just wondering
conveniently
how
had
often he
buttons that came
cleans.
off really easily.
Oh, did
So
it?
you just
Okay.
pop them all off.
How often do you clean your keyboard, Rob?
Like, never?
Yeah,
This one's flat, so you just wipe it.
that's true. I just mean they get
Still,
stuff
like,
gets
never.
stuck inside, doesn't it? And then
Well, I
and then it
tend to
gets all
just do
sticky.
the old tip it upside down and shake it a bit.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what you will find in there.
That's
If
not
you take
actually-
the key-
Always
That's not
fucking
actually
sesame
helping you
seeds.
at all, though. Because it's like, the stuff that comes out when you tip it upside down and shake it is never actually going to be in contact with where your fingers are. Because it's already gone below that.
That's true.
It's irrelevant grime.
Well, how do you clean the top of the keys? Do you always take everything when you clean that? Do you just take everything off and put
Yeah,
it in?
that was the way I did it on the old computer. I just pulled all the keys out and then wiped each one down. Then put
Yeah.
them back in.
I stick
I'm
them
not sure
all
if
in.
that
like
would work with this keyboard now.
You didn't.
No,
show
it does,
the
it's
key
fine.
Cleaning type.
Because I've got the same as yours, G15 backlit key, and you can just pull them out. It's fine.
Good.
And then I stick them all in a little bowl of hot water with a bit of washing up liquid or something. Leave it in there, and then
I think
have
I
a go at
mentioned
the-
last week about the escapades of removable keys at work.
escapades. Are they
Did I?
leaving the keyboard and
I
migrating
don't
down
think
the
you did.
corridor?
Oh, did I not mention this? Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, basically, because I was out of action from work for a week when I was moving house, they thought it best to rearrange the keys on my keyboard, and they still sit in this rearranged fashion to this date, where basically the entire middle row of keys, instead of saying A S D F G H J K L, is replaced with "you wanker."
You wanker. Is that with the U and then?
No,
Or is
it's
it
actually spelled in
Y-O-U?
full, the Y-O-U.
Yeah, that does fit.
And there's even letters left over, so they could replace R-T-Y-U with shit.
shit.
So it's
You
a shit you
wanker.
It's even better
Lovely.
because those 4 lines of keys sort of line up perfectly. So if you just take that block of 8 keys, it says shit wank.
Oh yes, that's true.
That wouldn't have worked on my last keyboard because the keys got gradually deeper as they went. They were angled slightly, so you couldn't move them from each row onto a different row if you were trying to put them back in wrong.
It's a nicely
Yeah, but-
cryptic password I had last month then on my system at work because it was just those 8 keys. So it was shit wank, but with the wrong keys.
What, you
So
set your
actually
password?
not a cryptic password at all because it would have just been the middle row of the keyboard.
Well, it
no,
wouldn't though,
not
would
the
it?
middle row. It would have been R-T-Y-U-F-G-H-J.
Oh, okay. The middle 8 keys of the keyboard. That's
That
still
would
not
look a bit
necessarily. Would have looked
That's-
weird if you could see the letters. But in terms of hacking, I guess that would be, possibly one of the logical attempts you might make to try sequences
Mash
of
the keypad
every
in your palm now.
Well, a lot of-
sequences of every line.
Well, QWERTY is a common, very, very unsecure password, isn't it? So it's only an extension from that for a program to go, all the letters that are in consequential letters would be the first thing it probably tries, I would have thought.
I wonder if
Try
those
ASDF.
password strength checkers would take that into account.
I don't know, because they have to calculate quite fast, don't they, whether or not it's... I think they just look for how many instances of
like
capitals and numbers.
Combinations of numbers and ats.
I think you could probably find an app that would do a proper evaluation of how strong your password is rather than a quick check. It might be quite interesting. I don't know. It's a problem, though, when you're on the web, because you're asked for so many passwords, aren't you? Constant logins for everything.
Maybe it'll do it on the same sort of scale as what the fuck shall I make for dinner? Like, it's fucking strong, or this password is fucking weak.
Yep, I'm sure someone could do that. It would be quite funny.
That'd be amazing.
Just go and look on the internet now, because that website probably already exists.
How strong is my fucking password.com?
Something along those lines, I'm sure. Do you use the flat keys at work as well as at home? The
No. Well, I have got my work laptop, which I use on occasion.
Right.
So that's pretty much the same. But no, I've got a proper keyboard at work. Well, the bog standard, what you expect a keyboard to be keyboard.
Is it like a Dell branded Microsoft keyboard? You know those ones?
Pretty much, yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
I think it actually might be a Dell keyboard.
Yeah, I think they are made... I think they're Microsoft keyboards, aren't they, on license or something? Or maybe Dell just make them. Probably. I mean, they have to sell enough of them. They probably can just make them. They just look a lot like Microsoft ones, don't they?
It's not even one of those... Well, when you say Microsoft keyboard, I think of those classic ones with the big home button they used to have at the top. And the sort of... the sort of basic hotkey keyboards they had.
Yeah, and of course they make all the ergonomic keyboards. You can still get those, can't you? The split
ones, yeah.
Keys. Yeah. They're very strange. I've never tried, because I only just learned to touch type, and I've never tried using an ergonomic keyboard in concert with that, because that's what it's for, I presume.
Yeah, well, that's the advantage of having this wanker keyboard. It's forcing me to learn to touch type quicker.
Ah.
Because I haven't changed the keys back.
You could just pull the keys off.
Well, no, but I'm not. I'm leaving the keys where they are. Except it's annoying because you don't have the ridges for the home keys.
Oh, that's irritating, yeah.
Because they're in completely the wrong place. I think one of them's on V.
I find I have to look anyway, because those little ridges are so small that sometimes I'm searching for them for longer than it would take to just look and stick my index finger onto the J or the F.
Judging from my keyboard, those G15 keys, the ridges on those are incredibly smooth. So your keyboard, like mine, Dan, those ridges are incredibly tiny. My last keyboards ones were much larger than that.
Yeah, they need to be big. I mean, don't they? I mean, otherwise it defeats the purpose, really, doesn't it? You know, perhaps they think of them as like an afterthought now. Nobody needs them, but there's a purpose.
You think they'd do something more? I don't know. It's because it's like to have a little ridge like that isn't actually very comfortable. Theoretically, if you're pushing down on it a lot.
How is it not comfortable? It's the tiniest possible ridge.
Well, now it is, but if they wanted to do, when it used to be bigger.
Oh yeah, they just put a giant slab of wood there, yeah.
Well, they could make the top of the key a different texture or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. They should try that, making those keys
one
a different
rubbery
texture.
key.
Or
have
rubbery
keys.
hashed grooves across it.
I figured that would probably be more annoying than the ridge. Do you reckon there was any market research into this?
No.
It's lucky that it's the F and not the D that would need to be a different texture, because otherwise if it was WASD when you were gaming, every time you tried to straight
but then you'd just move your keys onto a different set of keys. You play DXCV or something.
Well, maybe that would make it easier to find WASD when you came back to a game without looking. But it's quite easy.
You find maybe. But then again, you could do that anyway. Just sort of stretch your finger onto F, which.
That's true. I guess. I wonder if I do that subconsciously. Probably not. Don't know. So you switch between kinds of keyboards on a regular basis, then?
Yeah. I'm a pro.
You are.
I can't use those bloody ergonomic ones. They're just weird. If I'm typing, I tend to cross my hands over themselves every now and then to sort of if I can, it's almost like one push per hand, and they alternate if I'm doing it my crap normal style.
Like a sort of virtuoso pianist, where some of the pieces you have to cross your hand. Don't cross the streams.
Otherwise, the fuck button will explode.
That's a good it's a good group there, Fuck Buttons. Have you heard their new album?
No, I have heard nothing of their work.
You haven't heard Fuck Buttons? Okay.
I've heard of Fuck Buttons, but I haven't.
I know this is a gaming podcast, but listen to Fuck Buttons if you haven't already. Yeah, Street Horror Sing the
Are
new
they
one.
like advocates of Kinect and Wii then?
Fuck Buttons.
I don't know. You'd have to listen to the music and see if it gives you messages like, don't use
What you mean if they've like
Move.
put like reverse satanic messages in there somewhere?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that's the kind of music that probably does have weird reverse. I mean, it's pretty beat driven and crazy. So if you play it backwards, it could easily say some strange things about.
Like that joke from The Simpsons where there's a recipe for lentil soup on the end credits.
Is there?
Yeah, in the one about Paul McCartney or something, there's a recipe for lentil soup on the end credits in backwards.
Backwards. That's funny. Is that referencing the whole like Paul is dead thing as well? There was
Probably,
that hoax
yeah.
in the 70s. When was it? In the 70s or something, where Paul McCartney was supposedly dead and replaced with an android or something. Or a lookalike, presumably. Not an android. I don't think that would be a bit far-fetched.
I know. It was like, back when everyone thought that robots were going to be likely very soon.
70s tech was that awesome.
Well, you had Robocop. That was 80s.
It was like post-50s, where like in the 50s everyone was like, oh, robots, they're coming. And then when they didn't come, everyone assumed that the government had secretly prevented the technology or some shit.
And that's where the whole Fallout thing comes from, of 50s robots, I guess.
Yeah.
Which should probably be in the
Something
new XCOM game. Have you seen anything about that?
Other than it
read
exists,
some
no.
sort of reviews, or semi-reviews, well, not really reviews at this point, previews.
It's like a weird first-person shooter, isn't it? It's like not much like Fallout. Oh, sorry, XCOM.
Yeah, it doesn't sound
old.
anything like XCOM, basically.
Apart
they
from the
cocked
kind
up a lot of the basic sort of, even like the sort of references or whatever. It's like, these are not actually very good references either.
Well, it's got the whole usual sort of go back to base, do research and everything, and then go off on missions. But it's a bit like, the way I'm thinking of it is, it's like XCOM Interceptor, only a first-person shooter, rather than being like XCOM, the old game.
Wait. So the encounters are still sort of randomly made, you mean? Or are they actually sort
have
of like
sort of suggested that there will be sort of randomly generated areas.
Well, that's cool. This is starting to sound more XCOM-y already.
But you know how that... That's just not going to. That's just not going to work, though, is it? Because it'll be like how they do it in Torchlight, where it's just like a series of big chunks of level that are linked together randomly.
Yeah, I think
because actual random generated levels are just, that's still not really possible at this point. And I doubt it'll be coming in this particular FPS.
The actual levels themselves looked fairly linear, like in the demo footage they showed. It's like going into sort of suburbia, 1950s white picket fence, perfect kitchen and the perfect housewife with the,
with the aliens.
And then aliens, which are like this black goo, intelligent goo stuff, a bit like, the Venom stuff in Spider-Man 2, whatever.
Wait, so they haven't picked any of the aliens from the actual games then? They've made some new stuff?
No, apparently, by the looks of it. So far, no sign of any of the obvious aliens from the actual XCOM games, which is just like, so why is it called XCOM again?
Yeah, well, couldn't you have made your own franchise, or is this just a shameless tie-in for publicity? Yeah, it's that one.
Well, to be fair, the people who played XCOM, like when was the last proper XCOM game? Like XCOM Apocalypse was like 97 or something. It's a while ago to pick up a franchise and hope that the name is going to sell. I mean, that's all right for StarCraft.
but then that's why it makes even less sense, because it's like, so why even use the name if it's not going to be based on that game? So you're just going to piss off all the people who actually like that game. Then the actual name is going to have no significance at all. You might
but it's
as well call it anything you want.
It's instantly garnered more interest because of the name, and hence we're talking about it. So,
it is sort of working.
Sort of worked.
Yeah. And to be fair, they did all right with. I know different people, but Fallout did okay. Fallout 3, despite being a completely different developer and a lot later than the original 2D games.
But that had a lot of similar. That was quite similar to the. It had some elements that were related, like here is a vault and like here's some people. And
I'm guessing Bethesda weren't actually involved in the original Fallout games.
No. They didn't exist, did they? Or maybe they did. I don't know.
Well, who knows what other random companies were mashed into each other to make this new company.
Moved.
Yeah. Yes, well, we shall see about that. Speaking of Torchlight, I just saw that they've announced a sequel to that.
Why would they make a sequel to it, though?
I don't know.
Because surely what they should be announcing is whatever they were making that for in the first place, the weird MMO thing that they were planning.
Well, unless that's what the sequel is, but...
Yeah, but then they shouldn't call it a sequel.
But then given the success of the first game, maybe they thought, oh, fuck that. We'll
just release the same thing again, because it will take virtually no work to make a sequel.
Well, maybe they'd rather improve what they've got, because it's been a success, rather than try something...
I mean, if the second game proves a success, then that'll give them even more financial backing to go out on a limb for the next one.
Doing an MMO is a big deal.
That's the main thing.
I was about to say, speaking of going out on a limb, have you heard what Bizarre are working on now?
Is it James Bond or something?
Yeah, fucking hell. I mean, what the hell? I mean, the only other sort of foray outside of racing games for them has been Geometry Wars and the ill-received The Club.
What was The Club?
Oh, I don't know. It was like an arcade FPS sort of thing where it's about racking up points for kills.
It was basically
a bit like Blood on the Sand.
The way people supposedly described it was being basically it's Forza, except for instead of being a car doing power slides down corners, you're a bloke shooting people as you run along, and you just get kudos for shooting people. So it's basically the same game.
But that wasn't very good.
They haven't had experience, but it's not exactly. Well, Joystick, for instance, they sort of seem to like The Club, whereas a lot of other places sort of rate it as a bit.
Well, it was a kind of a weird sort of genre crossover, where it's like because it had those elements of sort of kudos and comboing and people were like.
Well, that could be fun in a multiplayer arena. I'm not sure a single-player game based on it would work.
I don't know.
Much the same way that UT has always sucked in single player.
Yeah. Although sometimes it's quite fun to stick on bots and insta-give and just bounce around crazy.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't really count. Campaign mode has always been weak.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, really weak.
But that's because they didn't try and make a campaign mode, because they knew it was only a game people were going to play multiplayer. It was just like, we're just going to throw in a little bit
everything.
Do you remember the original UT?
That was probably just to show off the UT engine. To say, these are engine in all your other games that require cinematics, because it can totally do them.
But they weren't in-game cinematics, they were rendered in the engine and then cut to movie files.
Well, I think. But still made in the engine.
I don't know.
Yeah, is that the same with Gears of War cinematics? They're rendered and cut to files, aren't they? Are they with the Unreal Tech?
Oh, no, I'm not sure, actually. I think the Gears one might be live. They're not cut to. I don't think they're cut to film.
Perhaps they are.
I know Uncharted's probably the one you're thinking of, where that's an obvious switch to movie.
Well, it does it in Batman,
because
and
you can see
that's
the film.
Unreal.
Yeah, you can see the film compression is the problem in Uncharted. That's the only giveaway.
Right. Yeah.
Mass Effect 2 had really obvious. Because I guess we can talk about that because
and they were low res was the other giveaway. They were SD video in an HD game. Which looked a bit funky.
Because I forced Rob to play the ending.
Forced him? Why did you need forcing?
Well, he was at my house, as he does most Sundays, and we're like, well, should we play a game? And he's like, no, I want to see you finish Mass Effect so we can get it over and done with. Which is fair enough, because it means after today... Yeah, in theory, after today, we will never speak of it again until Mass Effect 3.
So what did you think of the hilarity of the giant Terminator thing?
Yeah, it is quite funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love the sounds it made, though. The sort of...
Yeah. I don't know.
Shoot it in the eyes.
Naturally.
Because
It
it's
is
a
a
boss.
bit cliched, but I didn't think as a boss it was that bad.
It was better than Saren fight at the end of Mass Effect.
Oh, I don't know. Well, hang on. This is where I'm getting to here. For some reason, I look at the ending of Mass Effect 2 and I go, eh. You know, I look at the end of the first game and I think, oh man, that was actually pretty epic. You know, it was a big old fight and everyone getting involved and the council getting killed maybe, and everything seriously hit the fan. Except in this one, it's just like, well, it's just you guys. You know.
Well, the bit leading up to that is meant to be the epic part, where it's like, send different teams out.
Yeah.
In
I didn't
different
really
directions.
think the whole ending bit wasn't really much of a climax because although it was it felt like an interesting bit of a mission. It didn't feel like it should have been the end of the game.
There wasn't any different enemies or anything.
No, this is the other thing. Yeah, the environment was something you'd seen before. The enemies were all something you'd seen before. There was the drama was reduced because of it. I mean, admittedly, the sequence leading up to it is really awesome, but you almost wish that could have been, another thing, like a twist, something you didn't expect. There wasn't really any of that.
Yeah,
there was some
isn't
interesting
really a twist.
insights, but there wasn't a big, ooh, holy crap, like in the first game. Everything was leading to this last mission, and you knew exactly where it was going for pretty much the entire game, and it lost some of the intrigue because of it.
I think their actual story twists have been going downhill since the first KOTOR had such a good one, and
I don't know. I still think the whole existence of the Reapers thing was nicely played.
Yeah, that was the idea, but you got it from that kind of broken kind of computer down in that kind of side corridor, didn't you? In that sort of old, that planet that was overgrown with plants, and you were in
that happened
vehicle.
afterwards. The first time you saw it was when you're blowing up one of Saren's bases, and you actually talk to Sovereign. That was the first real concrete mention. Then you go talk to the Prothean computer later on, who sort of explains everything in a bit more detail.
Yeah, okay. So that's supposed to be the revelation that when you talk to Sovereign.
Where you end up sort of going, holy crap, I'm actually talking to the ship. What the fuck?
Yeah.
WTF barbecue.
Yeah, and then the Prothean goes into more sort of detail, the computer thing. But I found that wasn't too dramatic. And that whole driving down, that whole area before you get to that computer where you're driving down those tunnels in your little vehicle, it was all
was a bit weak.
It was all a bit end of Halo 1. Do you think?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember, going through, with the sort of sloping sides?
And end of Halo 3.
Well, yes, although...
They had to do that kind of thing with the vehicle, whereas it's like, you have to drive really quickly to get to the mass gate thing to chuck you before it, for some reason, shuts down or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know what
basically,
that
just means you just drive straight forwards, because you can't stop and shoot anything, because otherwise you run out of time.
No, you don't really get any time.
No, it doesn't tell you as well, so you almost inevitably die the first time when you treat it as a normal... you're aware there's a time limit, but you start shooting the things, you think... And then you die, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'll just go straight forward, shall I? So instead of informing you, quick, run, like the end of Halo 3 does, quick, for the God's sake, run, everything's blowing up. It's just like, it doesn't flag it up properly.
Like, so we have to get there before it shuts down. Here's the time limit, but you don't really know how far away it is.
How far away, yeah. Yeah, that was quite poorly handled, I think, in the first game. I don't think they would have done that if a similar thing had happened in the second. But of course, no vehicles in the second until the DLC, which I haven't played, so...
And even then, that's a fairly weak section.
I agree. Yeah,
it was only free DLC, so can't complain.
I don't know. I kind of like that vehicle.
Although the vehicle itself was alright, it's just they didn't do much with it that was interesting.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Like the first few missions you get are quite literally go here, scan the floor, and then eventually you start getting to shoot at stuff. Not that thrilling.
But then they also made the shooting like lock on missiles, which was kind of now it's easy to aim in the general vicinity of some enemies.
Although that was a bit annoying as well, because you sort of how you get that sort of cursor in Mass Effect where it sort of shows you what guy you're looking at really, and if you use your power, what it would aim for.
Yeah.
In the vehicle that doesn't apply. It's whoever's nearest you. The missiles will home to. So if you even at your aim at someone else and the cursor shifts to them and you can see their health and shields and all that, the missiles don't necessarily go for them. You have to get the one who's closest to the vehicle, otherwise the missiles will home on that.
It was pretty hard to actually get the aiming cursor to appear in the vehicle. It's like,
I don't know. I didn't have too much of a problem with that. But...
You don't want to stay stationary that much, really, if you're anywhere near the enemies. If you constantly
most of the time you could do
jumping.
Most of that combat you could do from afar anyway, just sort of sit.
Well, yeah, that was the way to do it, though. It was just like, don't actually... It was also really hard to tell when you were taking damage in that vehicle. It was just like, oh shit, so you only realise when you suddenly get on fire, and that means you're basically about to explode.
Oh, I don't know. Did you not get the annoying siren thing? Because you could
I did, but
as soon as you take a tiny bit of damage, you start hearing it going...
Yeah, but it fades in so quietly. It's just like, it's so gradual you don't really notice it when you're constantly gunning at stuff.
Don't get me wrong. Well, in summary, enjoyed Mass Effect 2, but for some reason it leaves me with a less satisfied feeling than the first.
I know what you mean about the epicness of the last fight in... Well, it's more like, I think both of them were, to some extent, an anticlimax, because the section leading up to the boss was pretty cool. Like in the first Mass Effect, because you're crawling kind of on the outside.
Yeah,
are you on the outside?
Shaft, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, when you're on that
hard,
inside the
section.
Citadel, but you're on the outside, and everything's so huge, and you know everything's blowing up. And just like you say, the decision to save the council or not is really cool. But then you end up, I don't know who said it, I think it was Yahtzee, but you end up having a fight in a shopping mall at the end.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, this is a bit of an anticlimax. And similarly with Mass Effect 2, you have this epic kind of huge space fight, and then the kind of suicide mission with the different teams and the decisions and people dying sometimes if you're unlucky. And then it's a big, giant, stompy robot thing. And it seems quite a silly boss at the end.
And it does some classic cliches, like,
I don't know.
you shoot all its support wires out and it falls down the hole, and then when your team looks over the edge, it's like, it's like, I wonder if it might suddenly come back up in a minute.
Yes, I wonder.
You know what, I didn't mind any of that. I didn't mind the fact that it was a giant Terminator, because I thought that was cool and it was well presented and stuff. The only bit that doesn't make sense is the story at that point. Is because, well, as Zach rightly pointed out, if the Reapers are trying to build, like, Reapers based on the race that they had, how come every Reaper we've seen so far looks like a squid?
That was the race, presumably.
That's a lot of Reapers.
Apparently giant space squids were one of the previous races in the universe.
After they said that it takes, like, several millions, perhaps, to build a fully formed Reaper.
That's true. Perhaps they weren't necessarily giant though, were they, Zach? Because the Terminator was a lot bigger than a human. They're little
space squid things.
Yeah, so maybe there's a huge amount they found around this planet or something, and they thought, well, these will make good ships if we just capture them all, fish them effectively, and then we can become these giant spacefaring.
Well, presumably
squid
it would have
ships.
been by mass rather than the amount of them. It's like they could have been giant space squids and just only taken like 2 to make a Reaper, or they could have just been human sized and take sort of the same number or whatever.
Yeah, perhaps they can scale them arbitrarily to whatever size is necessary. Although they do seem, when you see the fleet of Reapers at the end, they're all the same size, aren't they?
Yeah, they all look like those. They all look squid-like. It's like, where's the giant random floating head things or whatever? Like the human one that they were going to make. That's
well, maybe they're
sort
inside.
Of like that.
Maybe the Reaper, because obviously Saren could, and Benezia, or whatever her name is, Matriarch, could go inside it as if it were a ship. So obviously it has space inside. So maybe that's one form of Reaper that is used as a ship. And then there are smaller
maybe
forms.
the core, or maybe the core of them is made of something else. You mean?
Yeah, possibly.
Because I suppose these ships were massive, weren't they?
Yeah, they're really. I mean, the Sovereign is huge,
long.
isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it was
and
so
big.
Terminator
didn't actually seem that big in comparison, did it?
But they did suggest that it was embryonic, so maybe it would somehow grow, or maybe that was like maybe that's like the sort of mainframe computer core thing. For some reason, has to be like a torso attached to the rest of the ship, so it can sit there in its non-existent command center and be like, that would just be kind of weird.
Let's look at it this way: they'll either think it's a great idea and roll with it, and it will be a poignant part of the next story, or it's a completely pointless addition that we won't see of ever again.
Yeah. You know, I thought that the after the boss fight, actually, the story, I thought that it was a bit of a shame. They probably had to do it for story reasons.
Yeah, nothing really happens, does it?
Well, I thought they made it almost too black. They made the Elusive Man, who's quite an interesting character in some ways, almost too black and white at the end. They made him too evil, so you had to choose destroy the thing. You know, you can't really choose
you still
decide.
consider that evil? Not really sure because we don't know his intentions or anything.
Well, according to everyone on your ship, that was evil, because as Rob discovered, because he was playing the badass mode, where he was like, yes, we'll keep this base, and then every single one of his crew was like, I don't like what you did.
Oh, so you saved the thing, did you?
I kept it.
Oh, cool. I want to see what happens.
Nothing really. It didn't really change the ending. It still sort
basically,
of up.
I don't mean now. I mean in 3. I mean, what will happen in 3 if you save the ship? I can tell you,
Dan, that basically the end sequence where like the last conversation with Lucy's dad is exactly the same, except for in the good ending, Shepard just like logs off. But in the bad ending, Shepard logs off, and then the hologram of the thing appears in front of the Lucy man, and he's like, That's like the only difference in that sort of end conversation.
Oh, okay. I'll be interested to see what...
He looks somewhat sinister, because that's the first time he sort of has a sort of like cheeky grin on his face. You know,
it's
kind
true.
Of looks like he's about to go. But
yeah,
and also the weird planet blob sun thing in the background changes colour. I noticed.
Does it?
Yeah, your one's like super red, whereas if you're playing good, it's more sort of blue. Well, obviously.
Maybe that's another a good bad thing, like the scars.
Because he does make some good points, but he makes them in a kind of silly, woo-ha-ha kind of way. You know, yes. It's like,
we're going to take over the world!
When his points are like, oh, we need to research this thing so that we can fight them in future, which is like valid points, things like that. And yet he's saying it in this kind of excellent, kind of Monty Burns kind of way. And it's like, I couldn't. I did the ending twice because I lost Morden. I didn't want him to die. And every time I was thinking, shall I save the ship? No. And I ended up not saving it each time. But I don't know. I hope that your decision to save it doesn't make you, in any way evil, like in the next game, because it seems like
I can't help but think it will be one of those plot points that's like most of the carryovers from the first game that's pretty inconsequential.
Yeah, minimized.
Unless the next game they're planning is massively varied.
But why put so much like drama and have it as like practically the last thing you do in the whole game?
As the important ending. Well, then again, but that was the thing with the council, wasn't it? In the end, it didn't actually make much of a difference to the overarching story. It just changed some of the conversations. So I get the feeling this will be the same thing, or maybe it will play a part in like a submission or something. But at the end of the day, maybe it's not part of this story. Maybe it's just one of those things that will, it's just part of the world randomly that's sort of just there,
Because that council thing in the first, like in the second game, it's almost weird how little a part they play. Like they reinstate you as Spectre, don't they? But like Spectre is made out as this hugely important thing that gives you so much privilege and you can go everywhere and do anything. And in the second game, it's like whether or not you're a Spectre almost doesn't matter at all.
has no meaning, no, because you're dead.
Exactly. So you're a free agent regardless, really. So. And you're pretty bad.
And everyone just goes, that's fine. Yeah.
And no one...
We don't even have to mention that you're a Spectre to anyone. It's just like...
Yeah, it's like after you get reinstated as a Spectre. Because in the first game, it was like, oh, holy shit, it's Shepard, he's a Spectre, give him access. And then the second game, it's like, hey guys, carry on.
Yeah, I know. It's really weird. Maybe it's because in Mass Effect 2, the kind of people you're visiting don't really care about the lore or...
Well, you'd think they'd be more worried if a Spectre turns up, because they're all like criminals or whatever. Like the people on Omega, they'd be like, "Oh shit, a Spectre!"
Yeah, they wouldn't let you in the nightclub if. Oh no, they would have to though, wouldn't they? Because Saren turned up and what?
And because they didn't want to make trouble, presumably. But you'd think they'd still comment on it.
Yeah, it's just not mentioned. Whereas it's like bigged up as this absolutely massive thing that you're the first human Spectre, and it's like the biggest thing that's ever happened. And then it's like almost as if in Mass Effect 2, there's Spectres, human Spectres everywhere. They're like the FBI or something. It's always perfectly normal. It's really weird. Anyway.
Presumably there are a lot of these concessions are just out of the way the game is designed, because of the overarching things. They have to play down some elements from the last game.
Yeah, I agree with the decisions. I think overall Mass Effect 2 was really damn good. I want to play it again, but... it's not going to give us much to talk about apart from Mass Effect 2. It's probably not a good idea, but I will play it again.
Gameplay-wise, it's a lot better than the first, but in terms of story and just general...
Well, I thought
general feel, there's something not quite so immersive about Mass Effect 2 compared to the first.
Well,
I don't feel quite so into it as I was when I was playing through the first game.
Well, my main problem with the first one was...
I do go back to it quite regularly, which says something.
That's true. How are you doing on what's that JRPG? Odyssey, Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, I touched that once and then haven't gone back to it since last time I mentioned it.
Yeah, my main thing about Mass Effect is obviously we play it completionist, and there's that bit in the middle where you spend ages flying around, going to all the different planets, finding everything, and doing all the little missions and stuff. Yeah, and it gets kind of a bit samey because every planet has the same installation on it or whatever.
I mean, it was nice that they sort of forced missions upon you. That was nice.
Yeah,
to sort
it
of
forced
mix
you
it
back
up.
into the
It
story.
gave it some urgency in places.
The
there should have been
funniest
more
thing,
of that.
Well, there was quite a bit of it. I mean, I think they did it
It was
to a
only
good
like
degree.
2 or 3 times that happened, but they could have added more because there was so much to do in the world that, as I say, there comes a point towards the end where it's just like, well, now there's no... Now it's in your hands. You can go and finish everything everywhere, and there'll be no more random pop-ups that you have to do immediately.
Yeah. But I thought in the first game...
They should have tried to even it out so there would always be stuff to do.
Yeah, well... I don't know, did you not find there was always stuff to do in the second one?
Well, no, do you know what I mean? There was always stuff to do, but there was never always an essential plot progressor to do.
It's because all those little side missions were like they were just side missions. Because obviously, when you're doing like if it's going to force you to do a mission occasionally, you kind of want those to be. It's because of the weird way you get because you level up from doing the missions. They can't be very different. All the side missions, they all have to be essentially go in and shoot some things because it has to account for the fact you might not do them in whatever order. You can't have.
There were some interesting variants in the side missions this time. Like the
concept of
comes to mind.
Yeah, the concept of the loyalty mission, whereby they are important to the story, but and yet you don't have to do them.
But yet they're still optional.
You end up doing them. Yeah, that was very clever. Because the one thing that was funniest about that in Mass Effect 1 was that you ignored the main story so that you could do all the side missions, right? But the main story, while you were potting around the galaxy for literally hours, 10 hours maybe, doing these little side missions in these little places that all looked identical with different coloured sand or whatever, and different coloured sky, the main mission that was there waiting for you to pick up was called Race Against Time.
Yeah.
And it was the whole game. Race against time, you must do this. And yet you want to go and do everything else. But it's not bringing it, it almost breaks the story in a way. Because it's like the urgency is completely lost by the time you return to it once you're leveled up. Yeah,
it was quite inconsistent like that in the second game, wasn't it? Like where you go... there's always like, everyone's really keen to hand it to the collectors. Let's go kick some butt. Yeah, let's do this. And then you're not.
Yeah, one's kind of the same again. Where it's like if you especially with them doing the loyalty missions, where it's just like, I want to go and see if my dad's crashed ship. I want to see this. It's like, but we can put this off because we've got this big important mission. But that's just like that's what the character says. But then of course that it's just like, but it's a loyalty mission. It's important, and therefore you do it before the rest of the story, regardless of the fact that it's a weird pointless wander off into the middle of nowhere for no fact reason. New quest.
It's quite nice that probably lamest loyalty mission went with probably the lamest character,
yeah.
Jacob, yeah. That's I was telling about that bug last time. I was telling about that bug where I got stuck on that loyalty mission on the sand and I couldn't move. I've remembered that the reason that I didn't want to reload was because I can't stand Jacob and I didn't want to listen to his dialogue again. So I was like, get off this damn rock. I can't
be bothered with this mission. He is a fairly annoying character, and his teeth don't move.
Yeah, as you noted, yeah. I know. It's a shame that the black guy is the most annoying, but but then
shouldn't he be like the coolest?
He should be.
He should do some kind of rap over the credits.
Yeah, damn right. Oh yeah. Well, that point brings me to the next point. Where the fuck is the cool end theme? Because Mass Effect 1 had that really awesome sort of like 80s synth pop style. Well, not synth pop, but you know what I mean. Sort of like
probably is
synthy end theme that was different and new, and it felt like a reward for finishing the game. Whereas Mass Effect 2, you just get the theme you'd been hearing on and off throughout the entire game, and it's like, meh. Where's the drama? I was quite disappointed by that. Actually, I was expecting another cool theme, but it's like
I also like
to a certain degree when you went in the second Matrix film, isn't it? You still got Rage Against the Machine. It just wasn't as good.
No.
I also liked how the credit sequence was timed so that the music ended and at the end of the credits, except they then stuck the credits for the DLCs onto the end of the credits. So it's like the music stops and then the credits just keep going because it's still got to go through all the DLC credits. That was really dumb.
They should have had some sort of like extra music that looped or something, like elevator music.
Yeah, or if they just looped the music, that would have been fair enough.
I can't remember if it had a little
faded out precisely.
Did it have a little teaser thing at the end of the credits? I can't remember.
Cheesy xylophone.
No, it didn't have any legendary ending or whatever. Although, I don't know, maybe it does. Maybe if we go through it on insane mode, it has a secret ending.
I like waiting for those. They're good in the Halo games anyway, usually. Although Halo 2 is a famous example of a game that finished like out of nowhere.
Halo 2 have a legendary ending?
It must have, I remember. I can't remember what it is at the moment.
Well, Halo 2, like legendary mode, the first level, I think I've heard that the first level is one of the most difficult to do in legendary. But nonetheless, that's still legendary mode in Halo 2 was just a bit silly. I mean, because I went through Halo 3 legendary almost no problem on my own. So
it's quite a lot easier.
If I can do it, then anyone can. But Halo 2, that first level, I saw Ruben trying to do it. It took hours and hours. I don't think he did it. He got stuck, and there's nothing you can really do.
Well, no. Do you remember housemate Ben at uni? He literally spent a day on that second room on the second loading bay of Cairo Station.
Oh, right. It's like
and then just about managed it.
It's about knowing exactly where to put your 3 grenades that you've got or whatever at the point when you enter the room or something. Oh, it's just unbelievable.
Time it so you kill a lot of them before they even get into the fight.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so damn
You do
tough.
have to jip it.
Oh, one thing about Reach that really excited me, which is really dumb but
above everything else.
Yeah, well, almost. It's the silliest little thing, but I'm saying that I'm looking forward to the single player because it reminds me of the first Halo game, right?
Which is bad thing.
Yeah, and before it went in a direction that I wasn't so interested in. Well, apparently, in Halo Reach, the Covenant don't speak English.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Just like the first game, the elites will be but they won't be. I think that is really cool. And
wait, so even the grunts? Because
I don't know about the grunts.
The grunts are comically English, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they might still say the funny things and stuff. But I don't know. That was still a bit silly, like in the first game. It was fine, but there were so many of them, and you got that kind of comic aspect all the time, which didn't kind of suit it at all times. I mean,
it was
good.
Fine. I quite liked it. It gave it a bit of character,
Yeah, I quite liked it when you got the hardcore right at the end, like the elite, grunts that had the silver. They were part of the crack teams that went onto the Pillar of Autumn to destroy it on that last level of Halo. And they had plasma cannons or something ridiculously powerful as well.
Fuel rod cannons.
Yeah, they had fuel rod cannons, and they were really accurate with grenades as well, which was really funny. Plasma grenades, so they were actually dangerous. That was really cool.
One of the things I love about Halo, and this is unfortunately this was only one of the things they really added in Halo 3, was the bloody campaign meta game, where it's like how to make the campaign score cooler, add scoring, and it's like holy crap, it's like something simple and it's just amazing, and the skull system is fantastic as well, and it's pretty much unrivaled in that respect.
I mean, the scoring is really cool for playing co-op, because that way you can help each other, but you can still be...
4-player co-op. I mean, 4 players. That's rare.
And it's going to be good in Reach as well, because it's going to make a bit more sense, kind of story-wise, having 4 Spartans rather than, Master Chief and Arbiter, and there's these other 2 guys who no one's ever heard of. Yeah. It could be fun. Yeah.
It'll be awesome.
And space combat.
I'm still taking the approach where I'm trying not to watch, because I know there's been another trailer or something recently.
Well, there's one today that was multiplayer, and it was the new versions of Midship, and
cool.
and
yes,
Ivory
midship,
Tower.
More midship, yes.
Well, midship was really cool because it was bigger than the old one. It was the same, but it had, I don't know if it had a basement, but it certainly had a roof where you go through the top of the level. You go up the top of the level through these kind of semi-permeable shields, right? And so you can go through them, but fire and
the bullet
grenades
shields,
and stuff. Yeah, can't go through them. And you go out literally into outer space, so you're on the outside of the ship, and the gravity suddenly goes down to very low, and you can move really fast in the low gravity across the level with the jetpacks or whatever, and then you can come back down into midship or whatever and drop down or whatever. So that sounded really cool. It was like
interesting, but I think that would ruin the balance somewhat. I mean, midship
yes,
is just
the whole idea of midship
as it is.
Just to be miniature and super tightly packed.
Yeah,
I think even a bit of space, so that it was apparently it's good for 4v4. Apparently, the new one. It's called.
I was about to say even in the Halo 3 DLC, they didn't fuck with midship. They left it exactly the same, and that was for its benefit.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you could probably choose to make those shields permanent if you just want a smaller game. Probably. I mean, that's the sort of thing they probably add. Customizable.
Maybe. I mean, you can always forge the levels so you can block those off.
Oh, that's true. And then the other one was Ivory Tower, or whatever, which was almost identical. It's just called Reflections now or something. But it
that's
just looked
Halo
really
1,
pretty.
Isn't it? Ivory Tower.
Perhaps I'm saying
I don't
the wrong.
recognise that one.
I'm saying the wrong one, but it was the one that we played a lot of in Halo 2 when we used to, where it's got a
it's not
waterfall
Lockout
with a
or whatever
launcher.
it was called. The sort of icy one with the.
No, it's not icy. It's like indoors, and it's got a waterfall and a rocket launcher, and then you go up on these lifts, and oh god, you recognise it anyway.
With a waterfall.
I think it had a waterfall, and it was kind of symmetrical, I think, and it had walkways up above.
Oh, it wasn't like in a cave, was it? Or because there was that really big base on base level. That was sort of in an underground cave.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, that's in the first game. That's the icy one in the first game.
No. It was, as I say, when I say cave, it was actually underground from Halo 2. It's not the ice one, not the big U-bend.
Oh, I think I know the one
you're talking about. Rob's talking about the one with where it was that was one of the big maps, wasn't it?
For the
16, one of the huge ones.
No, I'm talking about a little one for deathmatch, but or what's it called, Slayer. That's what it's called. Never mind. Everyone that's listening to this, if they are, would be screaming at the screen saying, "It's this one." Oh, never mind. But but it did look cool.
Not remember? It's been several years.
It's been a while. Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're playing it up until it got shut off.
No. I was a bit, as I said before, I was a bit annoyed that I missed that. The last hurrah. But
never mind. It's being a bit nostalgic, really, isn't it? I mean, it's not like you play Halo 3 all the time, is it? Even though you've now got the...
Well, true, but I still respect that it is fantastic.
Well, hopefully Reach shall revive that sort of jumpy, crazy combat. It does look mental. I mean, the new level they were talking about today...
to get into it. It's one of those multiplayer games that's better when you know, like most multiplayer games with me, to be honest, it is so much better when you know the guys you're playing with.
Well, Zach's still not got a console, but...
he could at least guest with me at times, I suppose.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that could be cool. The
TV. Unranked list idea is hopefully still stand.
Yeah, the new
really badly failed.
The new level they were showing off in that video as well was like one for the invasion, new game type. So it was like Spartans assaulting some points, effectively. Like Battlefield points.
The new assault mode, basically. Yeah, they had that. That was one of the levels in the Reach beta we talked about.
Right. Okay.
Where you had to basically push forward, and as you do, the sort of intensity of the weapons and vehicles available to you increases. So eventually, it becomes like tank on tank.
Well, the final stand here was in this giant tower where the elites all spawn at the top of the tower because it's the last point, and they're all sniping out of it, and then you have to sort of jump up to it, and it's this, or you can fly up to it in these helicopter things, twin rotor, tilt rotor things, and the elites also had the ability to fall off the tower, but they had these little pads that would stop them from dying if they managed to hit them on the way down. So they could actually get down. Yeah, it's quite interesting. We'll have to see how that one plays out.
They're taking some interesting, they're taking some interesting routes in Reach. So not all of them will work, I wager, but at least they're
I agree.
trying to go out with some interesting experiments, things they probably wanted to do before, but were a bit timid on.
I just hope they have a lot of options. Well, the trouble is, because of the way it will work with like their matchmaking and whatever and their playlist system, it's like there won't be quite enough options for like not having specific backpacks or whatever. Because I don't know.
We don't know the level of customization yet. That's probably one of those things you can just forge into the game like you could with every other game type. You know, that wouldn't even be the forge, was it? You could set up game types to enable you whether you had grenades and how fast you moved and how your shields act. It will probably be just another one of those options.
Yeah, but I meant for like matchmaking or whatever. It won't be. I mean, it's fine if you're just like hosting a game and then like getting a bunch of people you know to join or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure that will still have a ton of options. But then like for matchmaking in their actual playlists, I have this. I just don't like all of the backpacks. That's my problem. I mean, I call them backpacks because I've been playing Red Faction, but we'll come to that.
The armor abilities.
Yeah, it's like I don't like the idea of having all of those available all the time. But then that might turn into one of the things where it will be like the community they'll eventually start putting in playlists where it's like the community has decided that we don't like this one very much, so now we'll make a playlist that won't have that one.
Well, exactly. Yeah, Bungie have always been very open to that sort of stuff. And admittedly, they're a bit slow on the uptake because it took them a while to introduce SWAT game types and stuff, and even then they still didn't get it quite right. But you know, they will listen. They're probably one of the biggest listeners out there.
So, Zach, I think you should probably give us the lowdown on Red Faction Guerilla. Is that what you've been playing?
Yes, quite a lot. I still haven't actually finished the single player, though, so there'll be more.
I actually played 2 hours of it as well, so...
Oh, well, both of you got an opinion.
Well, it's basically hilarious still. It's just like...
It's a good laugh. I have to say, my only criticism so far, like 2 hours in, has been the difficulty curve has already become a bit odd. Like... I've just entered the second area, just gone into Dust, and that first mission you have to do in Dust is so much harder than everything that's come before it.
Which mission is that?
Do you know the one that's the one where you have the miners are having a demonstration or something? The EDF set up and open fire, and then you've got to. There's millions of them around, and so you've got to like protect the civilians first. Then you have to destroy these PA speakers that are luring miners into the death zone, and
I normally did that one last. Because I think doing it first.
Think you have a choice, do you? Because it's
because you can go to
you have to do when you go to any of the free. Unlock all the others.
You can go to any of the free Guerilla mission icons on the map because only the fourth one is locked, the one that frees the area.
I can only see one.
It's probably because you haven't explored the Fog of War to see them.
Oh, you're allowed to. Oh, okay. So that's not made clear. So I'm allowed to drive into that area because beforehand, if I drove outside of the known area, it would be what was called the free fire zone, and the EDF would just start shooting at me.
Oh no, that's because the free fire zone is a specific area. It's the bit north of Farker is a specific area, like how Dust is an area. So it's not saying it's a free fire zone. It's saying this is the free fire zone.
Got you. That's not made clear. That's not made clear.
I guess it's not.
I'm glad that's cleared up.
But yeah, that mission that you're talking about is probably pretty hard if you try and do it straight away, because that's easy if you have the rocket launcher.
Right.
Because you go in, like, you go to the rally and then you shoot the guys, and that's easy enough. And then when it says take out the speakers, you just snipe them with the rocket launcher from across the quarry.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Then you just jump in a vehicle, drive to where the dude is, and hit him with rockets as well.
So I got pretty close to it for a few times, and then, as I say, it got to that bit at the end where you have to chase the guy, and I'd spent ages clearing out these PA towers by hand, sort of going up to them, clearing out the guys, remote charging them, running away, and then it goes, oh, chase this guy before he gets away. So you get in your car and you do so, and what's the first thing that happens? An EDF bastard rams you and you flip, so the guy gets away. So then it's like, God damn it, that took me ages to get here.
Yeah, catching that guy really has an incredibly short window. It's like, that's quite a bastard on the end of that mission. It's like, even if you actually do the towers by shooting them down with rockets or whatever, it's still quite a you can't cock it up even slightly because then he just gets away.
Also, I was a bit disappointed. Like when you move between areas, it doesn't like use a new texture set or anything. No, it just recolors the world on the fly. It applies a color filter or something to just
it's
say,
like the
this is
lighting
slightly less orange.
Like,
yeah,
it's kind of weird.
Pretty shit. It's pretty lazy actually, because you'd expect like a slightly more obvious sort of like area change. Like like they'd be using slightly different rock textures or something like that. No, it's just a recolor.
Well, it's like
already.
it makes sense that it sort of makes sense that it's just a recolor, that because it's just like you're not even going that far.
It's still the same planet, but why the hell would there be a recolored area?
Yeah, the recolor doesn't make much sense, and it gets worse later on, where it's like you go into the slightly green area, where it's like, oh, now there's plants, sort of, not very much. It's not like
is that just
it's like here's some moss.
Okay.
So the land is slightly green in colour.
Well, maybe that means there's a different texture though.
Possibly, and there's like just small little tufts of grass sticking up. Wow.
Is that where they're terraforming Mars then?
Yes. For some reason, it only affects that very specific area.
Which doesn't make any sense from a scientific
No.
Unless that
plus which that area also one of the major buildings in that area is like a garbage incinerator. It's like, should you put the garbage incinerator further away from the place you're trying to terraform? Not directly in it.
Did you see that Sci-Fi are making a television movie of Red Faction?
Oh god, yeah.
It can't be. It can't follow the actual story of Red Faction. Surely.
There's no possible. Well, yeah, there's no possible way it will be good unless they go all out and make a super cheesy Total Recall style film.
It's the only way. Total Recall is obviously a big inspiration.
It needs to have a shit ton of explosions and shit and things blowing up. It's like they need to go heavy on demolishing random buildings because that's all you do.
It needs a bit where the action heroes solve the problem by tunneling through a wall with explosives.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of the original Red Faction.
You're right. That's exactly where they got it from, isn't it? The whole big drills from Total Recall and stuff, and the whole point was terrain deformation.
Yeah.
And now they got it right, at least.
Demolishing every goddamn structure you find is hilariously awesome.
Yeah, it's totally.
It seems to me from watching you guys playing the demo that like it is really hard, but then the difficulty curve as it is really weird because almost like Deus Ex in a way because it's really hard, but if you figure out some way of jipping it, like by blowing up a certain thing or something, then or like having a rocket launch.
Well, I did find myself as I went through the game when you're doing the missions. Obviously, you set up to you find what the trick is to do it easily and quickly or whatever. But when I was just demolishing random structures or whatever, I actually started to actually play more like a guerrilla, where it's sneak in because it's actually kind of hard to not just run in and go rah and just blow the shit everything up.
Yeah,
but it's actually a way more easy once you work out the sort of weird mechanics of sneaking to break in and then sneak up and then just rig the entire building with explosives before anyone notices.
You could do that because so far as whenever I've got near anything I need to demolish, the EDF has just gone, there's a bloke, kill him.
Well, you have to. Well, I mean, obviously, I don't know if you have it yet, but you get the enemy radar, so you can see enemy units. That's pretty useful.
I think you get that from the start, but
not
provided
you don't
they're
get it right
hostile,
at the
you
start.
can see them. But...
Oh, yeah, if they're active. But I mean, you get one that sees them when they're just patrolling or whatever. So that's obviously useful. But you can actually do silent melee takedown if you come up behind them, and you don't have to that's the thing that one of the sort of elements of it that you might not realize immediately, because you think when you want to be stealth, you're I'm going to crouch and I'm going to sneak up behind you really slowly and then melee you to death. But in actual fact, providing you're not in their field of view, you can just sprint up right behind them and just go whack. And that counts as a silent takedown, despite you going roar with your incredibly loud hammer. So yeah,
so you're allowed to use the hammer, and that's still mysteriously silent.
Yeah, and in some cases, providing you don't fire too many bullets, you still don't get an alert level. Like if you take out maybe one guy with short bursts, you can get away with it. So it is possible to be sort of stealthy.
Maybe that will change things up. Well, as I say, when I get later on in the game, maybe that will become applicable. At the moment, it's just like enter area, get spotted, get shot at.
Well, that's the other. I mean, there are some cases where it's just like you're never going to be able to sneak in here. It's best just to like go on full on assault. But then that's better to do when you've got like full morale, so you get as many guerrilla reinforcements as possible.
True.
So it's not just you shooting every single person in the entire world.
like taking out the high priority buildings and things.
Yeah, those are pretty difficult.
It sounds again a bit like Deus Ex in that it has stealth, but it's more of. But it hasn't really got any stealth mechanics.
It doesn't
like a proper
really
stealth
intentionally
game.
have stealth.
Yeah,
it's just an afterthought that happens to be there.
Yeah, it's like stealth in the sense that you can move around guards or whatever, but it doesn't have any like hide mechanic or whatever, you know.
Well, you can sort of hide. It's like because I mean, like boxes and shit block line of sight, so it's like you can occasionally avoid detection. It's like I was rigging a garage or whatever to explode, and then because it was right next to the road, occasionally the EDF patrol vehicles drive past. It's like as long as you see them coming on the map and then quickly run behind a crate and crouch, and then they just drive past. It's like because occasionally the random patrols will just spot you and be like, "Oh shit, there he is! Get him!" So you have to like, if you stay out of line of sight, you can avoid detection.
Yeah, interesting.
But it's really just a funny game for just like blowing shit up.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it does that beautifully on your new PC, I imagine. Both.
Yeah, nice and smooth.
Well, even on mine, it's not running silky, is it? So your one must. But you're running a 400
you're more,
video. Right?
You notice more whether things are exactly smooth.
It's not super silk even on mine, so it's totally fine. I'm not complaining, but you know, it's one of those could do better jobs still.
But
it's better than the 30 frames per second you'd get on a console.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
It does nice looking on the console, though, wasn't it? I mean,
I'm kind of waiting for more of the hilarious missions like that one from the demo, where you're getting chased by loads of guys with rocket launchers. Just because the lots of EDF vehicles is hilarious.
They just ramp off everything.
Like the bit where you're leaving dust, for instance, and there's tons of them everywhere, just jumping all around you, like off the terrain, because they don't really know how to handle it properly, and they just go like spewing off.
It did seem to me
bad driving AI.
Yeah, I know, but it's hilarious. It's brilliant. It's quite exhilarating just watching it happen around you.
It seemed like one of those demos that gives you a lot of the game, like the most fun stuff. You know, it's like here's all the cool stuff.
I'd say probably that mission was one of the more awesome ones. I don't think there was any other of the actual missions that really compared to how ridiculous that was.
My favourite example of one of those demos was the old Shadows of the Empire demo.
Oh yeah. Well, they give you the best mission.
The best bit, the whole Hoth thing, all of it, and then leave out all the crap, and it's for free. So it's like bonus.
There was quite a funny mission, sort of in the middle, where you have to you have to go into this airbase and set like remote explosives into the aircraft that were on the pads. And it's like they're set to blow up when they get 10 feet off the ground or whatever. So it's like, yeah, okay. So you go and drive up to like the gates of this place, and then your commander comes over the radio. He's like, "You'll need to avoid the guards and be stealthy." And then Mason is like, "Stealth is not really my thing." It's like, no, really. So then I obviously actually tried to do a bit of stealth, and it's like I got past the first few guards, and I managed to get one of the explosives onto one of the aircraft, and I was like, yes, this is working. And then when they spot you, Mason just goes, "Whoops," in this kind of really sarcastic voice. It's like, "Whoops, now I'll have to blow everything up."
Yeah. Oh no.
So, and the funny thing about that is like when you trigger that, you know, once they become alerted to your presence, it's just like you can just blow up the vehicles however you want, but you can still put the bombs on them. So I was just like, oh fuck this! So I was just legging it from plane to plane, shoving the bombs in, and like on the last plane, I was literally putting the bomb into the plane's tailpipe as the pilot was climbing in. Like, how does he not notice? And then he just takes off and explodes.
Awesome. So you do get to see some planes actually take off and then explode immediately.
Yes. It's like, awesome. How could you not realise, after I've been standing next to these things suspiciously, while you're all shooting at me, why would the pilot still decide to get in? In fact, some of the pilots shot at me as well, which was doubly stupid.
Well, more sensible than getting in the plane when you've just bombed it, I guess.
Yeah.
There are some genius little asides that happen, like just little things where you sort of think, man, that's awesome. Like one time where I flipped a car, so it was like on its back, sort of 45 degrees at the wrong angle. And then I told Mason to get out of the car, but instead of just getting out, he sort of clambers out a bit, and then fell over. The instant he got out of the car.
When Mason ragdolls, it's so awesome. It's like, like you climb out of a car, but then for some reason there's a slight glitch and like the door hits you, and you just ragdoll, and you're like, blah, blah, blah. That's just really funny. Or it's like you're running down a slope, but the slope, there's just like one polygon that's slightly too steep, and then you just ragdoll, and you're like, down the hill. That's really funny. For some reason, most of the time when you ragdoll, you don't even take any damage. So it's like you can fall off some quite high cliffs and then ragdoll, and it looks really bad, but then you're just like, no, I'm fine. You just get up again. Yes.
I suppose it's more work because you get like, and the other things are just like when you casually blow up a building that's miles away and one piece of rubble just happens to fly quite a long distance into your face.
Yeah, and then knocks you over as well.
That's hilarious.
The worst thing
I've done
is
some stupid things as well, like you know those EDF crates you're supposed to be destroying as you go around the place.
Yeah.
Like, I knocked one in with the sledgehammer, and then walked into it because it's still standing, and destroyed the other side. Then of course the roof fell on me, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that does it now. It's like the problem. It's like obviously they've tried to create this awesome sort of weird physics engine for building demolition, but you do still get like this entire building is supported by one of its four walls.
Yeah.
And then and then you walk into it because you're like, why is it still standing? And then it decides to randomly fall over and just crushes you. It's like, oh, you bastard.
Like marveling at the physics of the situation. What the hell is going on? Splat.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Like, there's a point where it considers the building critical, doesn't it? Where it's going to go. And,
yeah.
But it's
and
like
so
that critical state is fairly ridiculous because it's like, yeah, you can have this really off-center building being stood up by a single pole in the far right-hand corner of it, for instance. With the rest of this giant concrete thing overhanging on the left, and somehow this one thing is strong enough to stay perfectly straight.
And yet it's making a creaking noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, is it actually going to fall down? Is it? Are they going to have to walk over there? You're just like, do you risk trying to get any closer to this, or are you going to get crushed by falling rubble? It's particularly annoying with really tall buildings where it does that, because those can fall over and hit you a hell of a long way away, like smokestacks or whatever. If those fall in the wrong direction, it's hard to get out of the way.
There are some great things like that when you demolish a building and stuff. I'm particularly fond of all the smoke effects of the wreckage sort of just lying around. How it is actually hard to see around the wreckage.
Yeah,
that is pretty cool.
The sort of annoying thing about it is whenever you demolish a building or whatever, because you want the salvage from it, it's like you blow the shit out of this building and it falls down, and then you have to kind of run backwards and forwards over the wreckage to make sure you scoop up all the salvage. Because it's like you can't, even though the salvage has a little shiny effect when it's out in the open, when it's under all the rubble, it's like you can't tell where it is. So you just have to casually zigzag backwards and forwards over the rubble to make sure you scoop up all the delicious salvage.
Delicious salvage.
I'm not sure that was really necessary. They probably could have just made it so it's if you demolish the building, you just get the salvage. It just deposits it automatically into your salvage reserve. That probably would have been Because it's not like you've just blown the shit out of this giant enemy barracks or whatever, and there's hundreds of guys around you who have suddenly been alerted. And like, holy fuck, let's get him! And then you have to run backwards and forwards over the wreckage, scooping up the salvage while they're all shooting at you. It's like
do a little dance. It's like, hey guys, I'm over here.
Not really a game mechanic.
Well, I should have added something like walking over rubble is a bad idea, so like you trip up and stuff.
Well, yeah, I guess more so than you do already. It's like very occasionally, if the rubble is still sort of settling. Although buildings do tend to, when they actually collapse, they do tend to flatten a lot. That's the thing that isn't in their amazing engine. You don't like get a pile of rubble.
Yeah, no, it's sort of like overruns each other. But the problem is maintaining that level of physics is hard. Yeah. There has to be a the fact that they collapse and sort of interact with each other while they're collapsing is impressive enough. To have something of that detail actually actually collapse and have every single piece interacting with each other is quite difficult.
You need it to sort of form a polygonal object once it's settled, don't you? That would be really difficult to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
and then texture
if it locked down somehow. It's like when they stop moving below a certain speed or something, it just locks it in place. Or something
creates
weird.
a new object out of it. Yeah, it'd be hard, but yeah, it would work. Even so, just the fact that they, as you say, it's not because they sort of flatten out mid-go. It's because as I say, not every piece of rubble interacts with each other.
No.
Because it just wouldn't be computationally feasible at the moment.
No, it's only on those crazy videos that people make of Crisis where they have to literally turn around and see the barrels exploding. Go past.
Well, that was brilliant. Yeah, that one. Where
actually, look at it. Their computer will crash.
Yeah. You can just see the edges of the flames coming over your shoulder.
Very funny. And some of those guys did them looking at all the barrels exploding, but like they had some kind of plugin that they'd made so that they could take it like process one every second, and they just leave it on there.
Oh, right. Like a time demo, you mean, rather than a real time thing?
Yeah, exactly. Effectively, that's like, well, it's a real time game, but you're rendering it slower than.
Yeah. You can do that with anything really. You can tell it's like anything that's classed as a time demo is basically a render as fast as you can. Don't bother with the real time calculations.
Right.
So it's like it just renders it frame by frame as best it can. So, for instance, in Team Fortress, if you recorded a demo on Zach's machine and ran it as a time demo on mine, you could get a ratio of how different the speed was to run that exact same sequence. Okay. So it's a fantastic benchmarking tool. In theory, you could do that with Crisis. You set up a really difficult physics scenario, run it like a time demo, and then if it can't handle it as fast as real time, it will take the time to work it out.
Yeah. So I suppose either of you have tried that game on or similar on your...
Not on a powerful machine. I tried it on my old computer, and it was barely playable.
Red Faction is the equivalent of that for me. I don't think I'm going to get anything more technically advanced than that, really.
For the time being, anyway.
There was another funny thing about Red Faction is that because you can pick up like enemy guns, and once you find them the first time, it adds them to your weapon locker. So you can basically fully refill your ammo for them or whatever. So obviously you like kill an enemy dude with a shotgun and you pick up the shotgun, and then the next time you go to your weapon locker, it's like, oh, now you can have the shotgun. So that's how you get quite a few weapons. But for some reason, as I was going through like the missions, like the random guerrilla guys who came and fought along with me, they started having better weapons than me. And I was like, where are you getting these from? I want those. So, like, after one of the missions, it was like, okay, now I'm going to have to run around and check to see whether any of those guerrillas died so I can have their gun. And then even later than that, in, like, the next safe house, there was a guy on the little firing range at the back of the safe house. And he had, like, an awesome gun that I hadn't even seen the enemies use yet. And I was like, I'll just hammer you to death and steal that. I'll take that small morale drop by killing a civilian, but I'll have your awesome gun. Thank you.
Well, it's too tempting when civilians have like high-tech gear that you really need. It's like all morality.
It was the ridiculous gun. It was. I think you'll like it when you get it, Rob, because it's basically a Farsight, like from Perfect Dark.
Awesome.
With an X-ray scope, and it can shoot through anything.
Nice.
It's totally ridiculous. The trouble is, the X-ray scope doesn't really go deep enough, so you can't really use it for sniping as such.
It's not like an infinite Farsight like it was in Perfect Dark.
It doesn't weirdly scroll through the landscape like it did in Perfect Dark because it was seeking a target. But it's pretty damn awesome, and you can like shoot guys out of vehicles as well. It was a pretty awesome thing where I was like doing a guerrilla defense mission where you had to like hold off an EDF attack on some buildings, and so I killed all the troops. But there was like a rocket launching tank. It was I suppose they're a sort of an artillery tank. It's like they've got like 6 rocket pods or whatever. And that was just sitting there firing the occasional rocket at the buildings. And I sniped the bloke out of it, and it was just like, okay, free rocket tank. Let's go and blow some shit up. That was rather convenient. Use that to take out a high priority target. So basically,
the one annoyance, I think, big annoyance, other than the difficulty curve of Red Faction, is those pop-up things. The ones that sort of go, "Oh, we need some help, like now." Like the convoy ones that are, and they happen with annoying frequency at the start of the game. Straight away you get like a number of these things happening, and it's like, well, I want to do the next mission. And it's like, no, you've got to come do this.
Well, you don't actually have to do them immediately. It's like they respawn if you ignore them or if you fail them. I'm not even, because you get the defensive ones where it's like, the EDF are going to attack here, come help us. I think those probably even respawn if you ignore them as well. But I normally go and do those ones immediately.
Are they like those bloody gang wars in GTA San Andreas? Do you remember that? Come help us.
Yeah, I guess it is sort of like that.
And you're like, I'm in bloody San Francisco. It's like, you'll lose influence. Like I care.
Those were
that was the problem with San Andreas' version, of course. Where it was like, you did actually lose something if you didn't go do them.
That's true. Although at the end there,
you lost them all anyway. And did it again.
Yeah, you have to do them all again.
That was such a bastard.
You went and did them all, didn't you, the first time round, didn't you, Zach?
Yeah, as soon as that became an option, it was just like, these messages are going to get really annoying. I'll just do every single one of them. Right, I control all the area, now you guys can shut up.
There's a lot of them, though. It took forever to do all of them.
Yeah, that was the thing that stopped me playing that game, was when that came about, because I got bored quite quickly.
They made some design mistakes in that one, which they won't make
Those
again.
missions were just really dumb anyway. It was like, you just had to find a building you could climb onto the roof of. Because then you could just camp there and snipe everyone.
Or you kind of ran up the street, and they'd all run in a straight line towards you, and then you just done them down.
Yeah, you could pick certain spots where they just all charged at you in a line.
Yeah,
it's like do.
Yeah, because they kind of path along the paths.
Yeah,
conveniently.
I guess that was kind of the game's version of the killing sprees, because they'd cut that from because the what were they called originally? No, they were called killing sprees in the first game, and then they
were kill
frenzies
in GTA 2.
Oh no, you're right. No, kill frenzy. That's right. That's what they were in the first one, weren't they? And the second one, and then they changed it to
kill frenzy.
They changed the name to Rampage, didn't they? Because it wasn't as funny for some reason. I don't know why did they change that. Anyway, but they had rampages in all the way up to Vice City, didn't they? And then they thought, well, the games are getting a bit too serious for this, for just shooting everyone.
Yeah, where's my electro fingers?
But so I guess that was their kind of replacement in San Andreas, the gang wars, but it didn't really work, and then they just chucked it completely. So you don't have any. That would be so silly, wouldn't it, Nico Bellic, if there was a kill frenzy power up in the new GTAs? It would just be so out of place.
Just gives him a gun and you get unlimited ammo to go mental. Yeah, have a flamethrower.
It's really not in character anymore, is it?
They should just make a GTA where it's all fucking nuts.
It's called Saints Row 2, I heard.
Well, it's not even that, really, is it? It's like, it's probably Just Cause is probably
maybe
a better iteration of it.
You know what I mean? It
sounds like what I'd want to see. Yeah, I'd want to see Rockstar attempt it, is what I'm saying. I know there are others that exist, but I want to see Rockstar attempt it.
Yeah.
Just lose the seriousness and see what they come up with, because chances are it will probably be that nice middle ground where it's insane but not overly insane, like Crackdown.
Well, you never know. It's not like they've made games like Bully and Manhunt? No, I don't know. But they've made some really silly stuff in their modern times as well as... Well, I'm not saying silly in a bad way, as well as...
Yes, that is definitely silly.
Yeah, Rockstar Games presents ping pong. Is that what it was called?
Table
tennis. Yeah, it makes more sense. But yeah, so
apparently
it's not beyond
good.
there. Yeah, apparently. Didn't your brother play it?
Yeah, played it quite a lot.
That was like the trying to get for the tech, wasn't it, for GTA 4 they were developing? So they made that game as like a proof of concept for the tech almost.
Well, the thing was, it wasn't just a proof of concept for the animation tech. It was actually a really good, intriguing sort of unique control scheme. The way you sort of like, it was almost like the Mario Tennis system, where once you're in position, you hold for the shot, but the length of your hold actually affected how much spin you put on the ball, and you could your different shots basically controlled the spin of the ball rather than how you hit it and things like that. So it was. Yeah,
I really like Mario Tennis on the N64.
Damn right.
Such a good game.
Yes, it is clearly the best.
It's never been surpassed, is it? Because I never really got into like the proper per se like tennis games. Like everyone shouted off about Top Spin. I just couldn't get into it. I found it too hard to read what was going on compared to the super telegraphed Mario Tennis, where you pretty much know what's going to happen apart from power pads.
Well, you could see those coming, though, couldn't you, power pad? Well, you couldn't because you didn't know what kind of shot it was going to be.
Well, it was either going to be a hard shot or it was going to be a pat shot.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so hilarious.
Oh!
Yeah, but you could kind of prepare for it if you were playing doubles. At least someone could go forward and.
That might be worth picking up. I know it's just like a port of the GameCube version, but pick up like Mario Tennis on the Wii or something.
Well, I think the N64 version.
Oh.
I've still got it, but I think the N64 version has come out for Virtual Console now. So
yeah, I think I saw that the other day.
Oh,
and I was
awesome.
thinking, oh man, we should totally get that.
Yeah, but I have the original, so
yeah, that's true.
That's true.
My N64 still works, so it's.
Yeah, provided you've still got an N64 and controllers that work, that we can use not buy the Wii copy.
Well, do you remember that I got to the stage where I could actually sort of play as both members of the both parties of a double
controller
on my own?
Yeah, that's true. You were pretty good.
It was like an intriguing method where you had to like use one controller to control the. You'd place one controller so it would act as your thumb on the control stick level. So you'd move the whole controller and move the stick on the other controller.
On the other controller.
And the only downfall was I had to use my lip as one of the button presses.
Oh dear. Not very sensible. I wonder how. I mean, how would that work? Because you have to press the A and the B at the same time for the smash shots, and so the controller has to have the buttons in that kind of shape, doesn't it?
I can't remember exactly how I had it rigged, but it was difficult, and I managed to make it work. It was like on one hand or something. No, that was it. No, it was still a two-handed arrangement in that I used. I could control one character pretty much one-handed, so a thumb on the stick, then my index fingers on A and B, and rest that down somewhere, and then the other one, it can control it with like the movement with the left stick. But then I needed something else to push the buttons. Something else where my mouth came in play.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, if you bought it on the Virtual Console, and let's say you had, I don't know, the classic controller, would that have the right button arrangement to be able to play it with the old control scheme? No. What does the classic controller
you'd like? Still be able to play it in the same way, because the controls. I wouldn't be able to do my interesting double controller arrangement anymore. That'd be fucked.
If you didn't have the classic controller and you were using a nunchuck and Wiimote, that would be kind of weird, I imagine, because presumably you'd have A on the top and B on the bottom, but then what would be the equivalent of Z in that setup?
Yeah, that
you need the Z.
A trigger on the other controller, on the nunchuck.
Oh, what? The actual Z on...
Use the
that would probably be kind of weird.
That'll work. I mean, you only use that Z to, like, cancel your shot. It's not, like, all the time.
True, but it was like, because the way it used to be with the N64 controller, it was like that was your trigger finger under the movement button. But in that case, it was like
You're right.
Well, the trouble with pressing the Z button on the Wii Remote nunchuck is kind of more difficult to push because of the way your hand wraps around it.
Yeah.
Like, I never liked that button very much. And it's all kind of soft and squidgy as well. I don't like the feedback from it.
It's got your DS Lite range problem for you.
Yeah. And the C button on it is even worse, but nothing uses that, so it's okay.
I don't know. It was used as your look around button and.
Well, of course, the worst thing is if a game tries to make you use both of those, because it's like, how do you do that? Do you have one finger up there and then move it between them, or do you try and put two fingers up there so you have one finger on each, and then it feels really awkward?
Yeah, no, that's not good. I haven't come across that yet, where it actually makes you use both buttons with some frequency.
Yeah, obviously they realised that it wasn't a good idea to try and do that.
Yeah.
That nunchuck is so light, that controller. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's because it's like there's nothing in it.
That is half the problem, is that the Wiimote feels fine for motion control, but the nunchuck has nothing to it, so it doesn't feel quite right. Maybe they should have put a rumble pack in there or something just to wait it out.
Dunno.
Dual hand rumble. That would actually be awesome, though. Because then you could have
really cool.
independent hand rumble. That would have been super awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's coming from the left. Here's left hand rumble.
Stereo rumble. Yeah.
They sort of get that in controllers, though, don't they? But it's not strictly right. Like, you know, when you're doing the mining in Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Or the shit scanning, anyway. Yeah, basically mining. Lame. It's like, depending on which part of the graph comes up, the motors behave differently in the controller. So I don't know if you noticed, if you like got the Zero, for instance, you get the really rumbling one because it's using the big motor on the left. However, if you've got, what was it? Is it Platinum or the other one on the far right?
Yeah.
You would be using the right-hand motor, which is the smaller motor, which gives you that slight jiggle. So it was actually trying to make the rumble effect sweep across the controller, depending on what you found.
Was that Zach? Was that a guest appearance by an Apache helicopter gunship there?
I don't know. I couldn't see. It was too dark. It had lights, so it might not have been.
Well, we didn't hear the faint sounds of.
It does seem like everything outside is making super noise tonight. It's like dogs and trains and helicopters. It's like, what the fuck's going on out there? Shut up.
That is what they fly out of out of
Wattisham. Yeah.
Wattisham.
Yeah, you do see them come past quite a lot. But normally they don't come directly over the house. They're a bit further away than that one, which is why I think it may not have been. It was probably in Sea King or something.
Chinook or something, yeah.
Well, it didn't sound very
like
shaky.
Chinooks. I've never seen one come over near them.
Oh, I've seen a couple.
They do sometimes. Oh, I don't think they fly them regularly out of their airfield, but I think they must sometimes have training flights or something that come to Wattisham. But they definitely have Apaches based there, of course, now. But of course, there's not very many of them, I don't think. We, as a country, are fairly skint for buying that sort of thing.
And we need them all where they're actually needed, rather than hanging around.
That's true.
Every helicopter.
Kind of stuff. Yeah.
But anyway,
local knowledge.
What I was about to ask was, because you said like the rumble moves from left to right in the scanning and Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Does it still have like the sound effect as well? Where it's like the different elements have a different kind of.
They have a different click noise.
Buzzy sound.
Yeah. As that as
well. I thought that was pretty nice.
And interestingly, that sort of mimics the rumble you feel as well. So the ones on the right side have a sort of lighter sound.
That's what I was imagining it does. But I mean, because it was nice how it's like the higher the peak was, the faster it clicked. So it's like you didn't even really have to look at the peak. You could do it by just listening to when it gets faster and slower.
As I said, do it by sound or do it by rumble was quite nice.
Sound and rumble was enough that you didn't really have to look at the screen at all. You could watch TV, pretty much. No. I mean, you had to keep occasionally looking. Because I did it in a kind of sweeps around the planet or whatever, so I'd sort of go up and down in a zigzag or something.
Yeah, well, I started off doing that, a fairly thorough approach where it was like, go up, move across a bit, go down, move across a bit, go up. And then it's like, by the end of it, you're just going, la, 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 la. Oh, I've done the planet now, fuck it.
Yeah, it's true.
As I mentioned last time, that was a lot easier.
Worst fucking miner ever.
Yeah.
A lot easier on the PC. It was just like you get the face of the planet and then you just sort of scribble over it in like little circles, like, and then you move to the edge so it would rotate a little, and then scribble over that edge because you could move it much faster.
By supercharging your mouse sensitivity.
Yep. Super awesome.
They were like that. Well, that mining thing didn't make a lot of sense either. Particularly, there was a lot of little things about the sort of the way the mining stuff and the planet's description interacted with the world. Because if you know, what I mean, there's a lot of them were saying like
they didn't match. Where it's like,
no,
this planet is green, apart from it's clearly not.
Yeah.
Or this planet has a really giant crater on it. Like where?
Yeah, we can't see it. There were too many. There were a lot. It seemingly seemed like there were a lot more repeated planet textures than there were in the first game.
I'd say so. Quite a few.
And the other thing was like, they obviously had this concept of fuel depots as you were flying around the world map, and there would be some planets that would say, yeah, it's well known for its several fuel depots. It's used as a sort of refueling spot. There's no fucking depot on this planet. What are you talking about? Why can't I use it?
Because you're Cerberus. I mean, that's what I assumed. I assumed that those fuel depots were actually Cerberus fuel depots, and not like general public fuel depots, which is why you only get one at the mass gate of the system.
Maybe, but you know what I mean. It kind of struck me as a bit funny. It's like, this is a refueling area, and it's like, no, it's not. Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
That was pretty stupid.
Or planets where it would say this has been this has been mined to death, basically. You'd still find ridiculously large deposits.
Yeah.
Writing the descriptions for planets seems to have become almost a mini little job in itself in the games industry. Like, the number of games, like Eve, even Freelancer had a little description for every planet, didn't it? And it's like, nobody even cares about them, but they're always funny when you do read them.
No, a lot of them were really interesting, though, because it's sort of... Some of them are sort of fairly innocuous, sort of like insights to the various races' culture and stuff like that. Things that don't exist in the codex in Mass Effect. So you'd learn some things about some of the races' history and their ways, and what they name things after and things like that from the planet descriptions that you wouldn't find out normally.
The other thing that was kind of stupid about the probe system was like, how exactly are you getting these minerals? Like, you're firing a probe into a gas giant, and then somehow a shit ton of metal comes back out. How does that work?
It's like, I initially thought that it's like, well, okay, you found a reserve of stuff, therefore Cerberus is just going to give you some of it from their like supply that they have. It's like, here you go, you're allowed to use some of this materials. We'll go mine that shit later.
Well, and there's also, well, I guess that sort of makes sense. But there's also cases where it's like planets where it says the gravity is so intense, no one could possibly want to mine this place, and then you're just like, scan.
Mine.
Yeah.
And I love how everything on your ship is so automated to the point that at the end, your entire crew disappears and you can fly around perfectly normally with absolutely no problem.
Yeah. You only need one guy.
And even when you finish the game, you don't get your crew back. You can still fly around as much as you like.
If you want. If you save them.
Oh, that was the weird thing, wasn't it? The after game was a bit strange, wasn't it? Because as Zach pointed out, you can go back in and do any of the other side quests that you didn't do before the final mission, which is an interesting decision. But so you go talk to everyone, and they give you that brief spell about, I'm not sure what you did about the collector base, and then the next line will be, when are we going to take out that collector base?
Oh, okay. I managed to avoid that.
They keep referring to like. This is like mission that you're about to go on.
Yeah.
Even though you've just
already been on. Yeah. Oh well. I don't know. I still thought it was really weird. It's like, what are those guys doing? I thought, okay, they're controlling all the ship systems and stuff, and it probably is, a full-time job to sit at a computer and make the ship work.
Yeah, or make the galaxy map work properly and plot courses and things like that.
Yeah, but then they disappear and there's absolutely no adverse effect. It's just so funny.
Well, I guess
no, we can still plot the Mass Effect jumps fine, can't we? Presumably Edie can take over at that point.
Yeah, I guess they can sort of excuse it through the they unleash the AI. Where it's like, now she can access the whole ship, so now we don't need any crew. Conveniently, because we don't have any.
Oh, that whole sequence was brilliant, though.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good bit where you
play as Joker and swear at
Joker. Walking around. I just love that bit where Edie says something complicated and Joker's like, "What the shit? What the shit?"
It's so funny. And obviously, good voice acting there from Seth Green.
Yeah.
Voice acting of saying shit a lot.
Shit. Yeah, but it's quite convincing and quite scary as well because stuff happens and you can get killed quite easily.
Apparently you can get murdered, if you hang around too long. Like the Praetorians sort of go, "Hello, murder."
Yeah.
Which is a bit strange because they're supposed to be collecting people, yet they seem quite happy to kill you.
It's because you're a cripple, obviously. They don't want your shitty genetic material.
They don't want my genetics.
That is actually a good point.
Maybe that's the idea. Maybe they should get like all the crippled guys and feed them to the Reaper instead. It's like you're doing a great deed to society. We're going to make crippled Reapers.
Sabotage the Reapers by forcing them to take crippled genetic code. Yeah, that'd be funny.
Creeplers.
I don't think they'd go for that somehow. Been up that dumb.
Sacrifice your dull life. Oh shit, where's the cat being? She's all damp.
Outside, presumably.
You.
In the world of dampness.
Damp kitty.
So you've been playing anything else, Zach? Or mostly Red Faction?
There's been a lot of Red Faction. Last couple of days I slashed up another game of Civ 4, of course. Because it was like, I need to play another game of that. And this time I tried deliberately to be more aggressive and actually attack people, take over land.
Do you manage to get your close neighbour quickly?
It was really convenient because my nearest neighbour was like a super peace-loving civilization. So I was stop.
Yeah, there's that one guy. It's there's two of them who are the most ultra aggressive, aren't there? Can't remember. Begins with an X.
Like Genghis Khan or whatever.
Yeah.
They're right bastards.
Yeah.
Or the Japanese are quite bastards as well because they get the aggressive and defensive trait, which makes them absolutely fucking impossible to kill. But
I was playing as them the first time I tried.
So it's I finished off my nearest neighbour, who was a right pansy. I only actually got 3 cities out of that, mainly because I had to raise some of them, because it was you've built this in a really stupid place, demolish.
No, fair enough. I think that.
So I kept the 3 semi-good ones, and then populated the bit of land that I hadn't expanded into yet. And then I've just sort of I've just finished the war against the second of the neighbours on this continent. It's that's 2 of them down.
Yeah, it's going quite nicely then.
It's a hella huge continent. There's still 2 more people on it. It's should I take them all out? Lol.
You may as well.
I think the trouble at this point is deciding where I'm going to build the Forbidden Palace to get the should unfuck my super long range colonies on this continent.
Oh right, yeah.
That really helps. I already built the other Forbidden Palace with the Versailles National Wonder.
Yeah.
Which acts as another Forbidden Palace. Already finished that. But the thing is that even though I went this super aggressive route, where I kill everyone and push forwards, but it's I've just sort of barely stayed teched ahead of these other 2 civilizations that I was attacking, and the third one that I may attack. But for some reason, the 4th civilization on this continent is really tiny. It's crammed into the top of the continent behind the one other enemy that's still there. And it only has 4 cities, and only 2 of them are actually any good. And yet it's still teched miles ahead of me. And it's how are you doing that? And it's still got tons of units and everything, which are more powerful than all of my units. So it's how is it managing that with so few cities? Is it just computers cheating? Do they cheat? I don't know.
I don't know. That is odd, isn't it? Because
if I left it so you could win by space race, I probably would lose at this point because that guy has teched up so far ahead of me. It's God damn it.
Well, you could probably squish him before he gets a chance to launch a spaceship.
Yes, that would be the ideal plan, I guess. Well, actually, I can't remember whether I did leave space race victory on, so I may have to.
You should be able to overtake him with tech anyway. Now you've got so much territory in the cities and stuff.
Well, the trouble is that having a really huge civilization sometimes doesn't really help because you don't really get that. You have to build up all your income buildings a lot to actually fund such a huge civilization. And if you're at war, the war economy makes you lose a lot of production as well on money terms.
Yeah, it's not so good, is it? You have to turn down the research percentage in the corner, don't you?
Yeah.
When you go to
kind of annoying, and also when your civilization gets so huge, you have to start thinking about maybe turning up the culture rate as well to stop everyone being pissed off.
Go back a second. Isn't most valuable research done at times of war?
Yeah, you'd think that would be the convenient excuse. Because I mean, you used to be able to get. Well, no, I guess you can, because one of the espionage options is steal tech, so you can still.
So
if you've got a spy in any city.
Espionage. Oh, no, espionage is the right word. It's espionage.
Espionage. Yeah, if you have a spy in any city, you can steal tech off them for an exorbitant amount of espionage points, though. Costs like all of your points.
Yeah, it's much better to just do the research yourself if you can.
Because it did use. I mean, like in Alpha Centauri, if you had the option turned on, you could get tech just by capturing enemy cities, which sort of also makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, because I find that, I mean, on the normal speed, like I was complaining about, the tech in general seems to move fast.
Well, even, I mean, this game that I'm playing is on Epic, and it still seems too fast, even though in sort of date terms, it seems sort of vaguely right. It's like, it's not the 1900s yet, and gunpowder units are starting to load, and it's like, well, that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
But it still seems like you're developing, especially in the early game, it's like, why are there so many techs? It's like, why not just make them longer and just sort of consolidate all multiple of these techs into one big tech? Do I really
I guess
need to
it's to
research
give you...
Wait, what do you mean when you say a tech here? Is this like a period of history, you mean?
No, it's like the wheel, or agriculture, or mining, or gunpowder, or whatever.
Yeah.
No, okay, so
there's
actually
a tree.
like parts of the tree. Okay, yeah. Oh, so I was getting confused there when you say like merge them into why there's so many of them. It's like, it sounds like there's so many ages. Like you went through a tech period or something. And
yeah, but at the
ages are sort of.
You've just entered the penny farthing age.
That would be pretty awesome, actually.
Well, the ages are triggered by certain texts, aren't they? Like the Renaissance, aren't they? And Industrial Age and stuff.
But the ages don't really do anything, of course. It's just aesthetic, really.
Yeah.
Like, now your buildings look slightly more modern.
I say maybe it's just me, but I kind of like the idea of having an insanely high-tech society where everyone still rides around on penny farthings and wears top hats. That'd be amazing.
So would they be like?
It'd be great if you didn't like have fixed.
Yeah,
it'd be great if you didn't have fixed ages. If you see what I mean, like you'd have a building style that went one way, but your sort of culture style went the other. If you see what I mean.
That'd be kind of weird.
That'd be really awesome. So you could have like punk guys living in gothic mansions.
They have to be like super space technology penny farmings where they're like they have awesome gyro stabilizers. So you don't have
no. The big wheel is horizontal rather than vertical, and it causes like downforce.
So it's just like a big fan.
Oh my god. It would be really cool if, like, the tree allowed you to get to the space race without developing the internal combustion engine, and thereby everything was powered by steam.
Well, I mean, because you can like tech ahead on some branches, can't you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But the trouble with that is you don't really want to, because if you start taking ahead, those ones just take forever.
Yeah, they take a long time, don't they? But I
so you might as well just do the shorter ones.
Because you can click on the tree on one way down the line, and it'll automatically do all the in-between ones to join the gaps, won't it?
Yeah.
But then you'll have left all the other branches. Yeah, and it will take forever to research the last ones because you haven't got enough research or whatever at that point. No, but I did tanks. I went straight for that, and then I caught up on the rest. That seemed to work for me as a military strategy. I know what you're saying about at the start of the game. There's so many techs, and they don't seem to. And why not consolidate them? But I guess you need some options because you haven't got that many options for what to do with units at the start of the game because you haven't got very many, or cities.
Yeah, but all those tons of text that they do have really don't give you... Those especially don't give you any different units. That's the annoying thing.
Yeah,
like, the early game units you only start getting once you hit, like, the metalworking...
So how detailed are we talking here? Is it like... You mentioned things like the wheel and stuff, but does it go as far as, like, fire or chocolate? You know?
I think the wheel is probably about the earliest one. I'm not sure if it is still in, because I'm not sure if the wheel is still in Civ 4. That used to be one of the ones you'd practically always get, because you get like 2 starting techs on a Civ.
Yeah, the wheel is in there, and it's usually a starting tech, so you've usually automatically got it, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But it's just like, practically the first things you do is just like agriculture, mining, and like animal husbandry.
Pizza making.
Yeah. Animal husbandry means you can build the where there's wildlife, paddocks. You can build little paddocks. Yeah.
Take away food.
Hunting for the other kind of animals. That's the real thing. It's like animal husbandry and hunting. Why are those not just one tech? Because it's basically they just let you do the same thing, exploit animals on the map.
So what were they? Animal hunting and animal huntery?
Husbandry.
Husbandry?
Yeah.
So people could marry foxes?
No, it's just a word. That's what it's actually called.
It's like it's how you say breeding if you're more posh. Like instead of animal breeding, it's animal husbandry. You teach the animals how to have sex.
That sounds about as furry as I could possibly imagine.
Oh dear. All those furries from the early human civilization.
It's got images of these Essex girls going, "Oh, I'd totally love to marry a penguin."
What the fuck?
Why? Presumably, since they're from Essex, they wouldn't actually know what a penguin is, and they'd assume it was some other weird kind of animal that they'd attribute
like a
the
vole?
word penguin. Yeah, they'd attribute the word penguin to the wrong animal because they're from Essex.
The vole.
I don't know. I was thinking of something. Yeah, man, you see one of those like long-necked horses? I'll have one of them. You mean a giraffe? No, man, it's like a big horse.
Yeah. You know, Rob, if you're playing all this Red Faction, do you get like the urge when you're driving around Ipswich whenever you see an EDF van? To, like,
what, just
shoot it with a rocket launcher or something?
Isn't that UDF?
No, I mean, you know, their electricity supplier and.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Not exactly. They don't look particularly armoured. It's not much of a challenge.
Well, the trouble with the EDF vehicles in Red Faction virtually don't say EDF on them at all. It's just like they're brown. That's how you know they're enemies.
Oh, okay.
And a bit sort of chunky looking.
Yeah, they have weird, like polygonic armor. Only obviously it's not meant to be. It's not low res. It's just angled.
Yeah,
probably
like
deflects bullets or some shit.
Yeah.
Like those really lame shields in the Dune film, except nicer looking. And if you've seen it, don't watch that. It's really long. And
I have seen the Dune film. It sucks.
It's got Sting with red hair, and it's just really bad.
I always sort of liked the idea.
For it being so incredibly long, I don't really remember very much of it.
No,
which I guess tells you something about its content.
I don't think I've ever... It's one of those films where I've never managed to stay awake for the entire duration.
No, I can understand. Yeah,
like the Two Towers. I've never managed to stay awake during the Two Towers.
Oh, the Two Towers is my favourite one.
Fucking dull.
By far.
Right until the big fight. Woke up for that. I'll even rate Fellowship of the Ring above that. On a second watch, I got into it.
Okay, you like Return of the King is definitely my least favourite of the Lord of the Rings
really?
games.
Oh, I fucking love that
one. Definitely. I think it's like I don't know. I haven't read the books yet. I started reading them actually, but it's when they go off, the heroes go off into the mountains or whatever and find the boring dead guys or whatever and wake them up and come join at the battle. And then they're like a Deus Ex Machina where they just appear and they sort of green mist kills all the enemies or whatever. Scotch mist appears and it's like, oh, well, that's lame. It was a cool battle. And also it's like the battle in the rain, in the dark, and it's really scary in the Two Towers. And then the Battle of Pelennor Fields is supposed to be really big and epic. And then it has those mama kill things, which obviously are in the book. But the way they filmed it is just...
Mama kills.
Yeah, well, the big elephant things, they're called mama kills or oliphants. Anyway, and it's just...
What about dada kills?
They're AT-ATs, though, aren't they?
Bit sexist.
They are 8080s from Empire Strikes Back. I mean, it's basically the same sequence, complete with like Legolas doing his ridiculous action film thing. I don't know.
I wonder if anyone's ever actually done a sort of like a composite of that. Just put blasters on instead of tusks and made them go pew, 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 release tow cable.
And then of course, Return of the King has about 5 endings, all with different fades to black.
That was classic. The worst thing.
Oh,
so annoying. That is unbelievable.
And also
I'd watched the
Eye of Sauron as well. The Eye of Sauron literally looks the other way. I thought that I thought that was supposed to be figuratively like distracting him from the search for Frodo, but he actually has a big eye which shines with like a torchlight over an area, and
for some reason he's incredibly interested in this battle.
Yeah,
instead of worrying about the thing which he knows is coming.
It's just I can understand it as a metaphor or whatever, where you have to draw his eye away from. But when they actually made it literal on film, that the eye actually looked as if he wasn't powerful enough magically to look in 360 degrees, it just seems so dumb.
Oh, I don't
there
care.
You go.
It was good imagery. I don't know. I don't really see a problem with that. While it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, if you were like really focused on something, then maybe you would feel like that, and then go, oh.
It's just the idea of Sauron going like in a cartoon. It just doesn't seem to fit for me. But there you go. That's just me. A lot of people like it. I mean, Jonathan Ross thought it was by far the best.
Let me put it this way. Yeah, the last one has more than one fight, and stuff happens for the majority of the film. Unlike fucking Two Towers.
Oh yeah, well, Two Towers, there's a lot going on in Two Towers because it tells the entire story at the middle portion of the story, doesn't it? So,
yeah. Fuck those buttons.
Anyway, yeah. So I might report back from. I saw Inception, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's bloody excellent, isn't
hilarious.
It? Did you see it too, Zach? Also,
yeah.
It was so funny. I thought it owed an awful lot to The Matrix, to be honest. Like, not just in its concept, but also in just the action sequences. Like, especially in the hotel where there's no gravity and stuff. That was very Matrix-esque. And I thought that the what they called the bad guys in the dreams that shoot at you. Projections. Yeah, the militarized projections in that guy's brain. They were like really lame agents, weren't they?
They really were really shit. It was like they look all hardcore with like armor and helmets and big guns, but then some guy just runs up and punches them and they just fall over.
And that other guy,
hang on, we can give them that, because although they might be sort of militarized, maybe this guy's mind hasn't had correct training. You know,
that's
got
true.
The equipment, but they haven't had the training.
No, I think it's fair enough, logically. It just seemed a bit like, we have agents, but they're pants. I don't know.
Some sort of defense, as opposed to no defense.
That's true, it's better than no defense at all. But like that Indian guy driving that van managed to escape.
Yeah, he avoided a lot of bullets.
No, he was amazing. With like 4 people asleep in the back of his van, driving around with about 1 million people shooting at him. He was like, la la la.
He didn't do that well, he managed to flip it.
He did. How come they didn't?
Yeah, but he flipped it and then just drove off. It's like, where were the guys following him at that point?
Well, that was the thing. There were some weird inconsistencies there. They're like, surely that would have been considered the whole wake-up kick, flipping a van.
Yeah, you'd think that would count as a kick. I don't know. But you have to like consent to a kick from within the other dream, though, don't you? Or no, I don't know, because they seem to miss kicks, don't they? It's like, ooh, that was a kick, but we missed it. But we've stayed in the dream too long. Now they'll have to set up another kick for us, or whatever. And I thought,
I think the idea was when they rolled the van, because in that level and the one above it, they had to like use the sedation, and I think because that was before the end of the sedation period, they could get away with that one. That sort of made sense. It's like they were too deeply sedated to notice that kick.
I see what you mean. So they could only kick when they were starting to wake up slightly from the sedation.
And then for the lower levels where they're like, oh, we missed that kick or whatever, I think that's because you had to time it with so it rippled up. It's like if you didn't all do it at the same time or whatever.
That's right, yeah. I don't know. Because that one in the lift shaft was sort of clever, but because he had no gravity, so he cut the cables, and I'm not sure why they went whizzing backwards, because they weren't under tension, presumably, because the lift... there was no gravity. So why they went whipping back, I don't know why. And then what did he do? He used explosives to blow the lift down the shaft and then hit the bottom of the shaft. So he was using the explosives as a kind of impulse to move the lift, even though normally it wouldn't have fallen because there was no gravity. Is that right? I mean, he could have blasted them towards the roof and left the cables on because they wouldn't have stopped it. They'd have just bunched up, wouldn't they?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he did something because maybe the mechanics of the lift mean that it couldn't move in certain directions. Maybe he had to propel it upwards. But, surely you'd have to propel it upwards because the brakes would presumably be designed to stop him from going downwards if the brakes had even been applied. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Perhaps the brakes disengage when there's no gravity present.
That would be a great design feature. Like, these brakes don't work in zero gravity. Oh, I'm sure that's never going to be a problem.
Well, it's quite unlikely, to be fair, in a hotel. Although it's not really a hotel at all. It's a constructed level of a hotel. Complete with stairs going to nowhere.
Maybe those elevators never had brakes. Because the architect who made that hotel specifically thought ahead to this convenient scenario of there being no gravity.
Yeah, you'd think, You'd hope so. I mean, I get confused by who was dreaming each time. There was a different person's dream each time, was it?
No. It was technically all that one guy's dream, something like that. But they dig deeper into his subconscious, each time. But the architect has the or is that wrong?
Yeah.
Or are they all sharing? In theory, they're all sharing the architect's dream, I guess, up to a point where Leonardo's character sort of took over.
I don't know. It confused me because when they were in the hotel. It was Joseph Gordon-Levitt's dream because he was saying the projections are noticing me because I'm quick, kiss me now because I'm the architect of this level or whatever. It seemed to me like I know the girl was the architect ultimately, but it seemed to me that she was only really doing the snowy mountain fortress level. And
I'm pretty sure she did the whole lot. I don't think he ever said they're noticing.
No, I think he did.
Him. I thought he said they're noticing us because we're out of place.
Yeah, perhaps you're right.
Not specifically him.
Yeah, I think that's probably
more
but then it was like, if you're going to be making this architect, designing these levels or whatever, why on earth did he make that snow fortress so goddamn difficult? Like, we have to abseil down a giant cliff and...
I think this was the point, is that it had to be impressive to...
Well, it had to be secure or whatever to give him the idea that they were breaking into, But did it have to be that impressive?
She was really paranoid that Leonardo DiCaprio's wife would appear, so she made it extra complicated, I think, because she was really worried about those guys.
He was like, "Tell me the secret,"
and she was like, "No."
Going through this vent, this really giant, obvious vent. Could you have not worked that out yourself, really?
Yeah, it's like standard computer game 101 logic, isn't it, really? Go through the big vent. I don't know. But like that limbo world, right? So there was a really quick explanation. That's one thing about The Matrix I liked, is that it's really cool, but everything is explained fairly painstakingly, really. I mean, you have basically lectures from Morpheus, and despite the fact they look really cool, it gives you time to absorb the concepts. Whereas in Inception, a lot of the concepts are rattled off really quickly. Like, you get used to the idea of the totem, but he says what the purpose of it in like a snap of dialogue. And the one that I almost lost, and I'll have to watch it again just to see, was like the limbo world is governed like mostly by the consciousness of the person who's like spent most time in limbo or something, or for some reason they would all end up in his limbo world, right? Is that it? Because it was the world that he built with his wife when he was in there for like decades.
Necessarily. It was something like that, wasn't it? But he ended up going into Chinaman's limbo world because he joined after them. So I think it might be as simple as whoever goes first.
Right, because he went into limbo because he died inside the snow level, right?
No, he died.
Chinaman died in the snow level. He died he died a level up as well, didn't he? He died in the because he got shot in the
yeah, but it
city.
Transferred down, didn't it? It transferred all the way down. And then what's his name? The actual target guy, he died because he got shot by Mao, whatever her name is, in the snow level. So he went to Limbo World, and they decided to join him. The girl and the main character decided to join them in Limbo. But for some reason, this Limbo World seemed to be governed
was controlled by Leonardo,
him. Yeah, it seemed to be his Limbo World. And there was a bit of dialogue where it's like, oh, the Limbo World will be most like, the person who's most fucked up or something. And it just flashed by, and it was so important. And I was like, why are they all why is his house there, that he built with his wife, the recreation of the house, in the world where they're going to save both the Japanese guy.
And there was the whole thing that me and Zach got very confused about, like the beginning at the end kind of thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's like, there's either two possibilities there. Either that bit at the start was mostly just sort of an interesting aside, or that what happened there was just coincidence, which... Because, as I say, at the start they went into Chinaman's mind, so Chinaman's Limbo would probably be based on that. And maybe it was because they'd seen it before that he acted to it or something, or set up the same scenario subconsciously, That was a bit weird, because it's confusing. It's like, oh, has this happened before? Does that link to what happened before? Have they just time travelled?
Yeah.
I just assumed it was the classic sort of cinematography thing of showing the end of the film at the start.
Yeah, but the problem with that theory is that the start of the film actually is that scene is the actually
location
the start of the film.
The
There are and there are things that happen in Chinaman's world that are relevant to the progression of the start of the story.
But the thing is, he's old and then he's young, isn't there?
Make sense.
Yeah.
He's old and then he's young.
They did delineate the when they'd stopped showing the end at the start and when the actual start was.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's one possibility. Yeah, like they could have been a cut, but they were definitely in his world, so maybe there wasn't.
I don't know. There must be. I'm gonna have to. That part will be important because that cut between where he's old in the castle, the Japanese castle, and when he's young in the castle is the point where it goes from the end of the story to the very start of the story. But it's almost the same location. In fact, it probably is identical.
It is the same location because it would have been built out of the same guy's mind.
But that implies that that location was actually built by the architect at the time, Joseph Gordon-Levitt or whatever, for that extraction procedure. But then when the Japanese man went to Limbo because he died during the main events of the film, he recreated the same building in the same way that Leonardo recreated his house in Limbo or whatever, and then he decided to live there until he was old, and then they finally met and got him back to the plane somehow with no kicks. I don't know. That's really strange.
Yes, we discussed that last bit of confusion because it's like, why is he super old? Because it's like, although they say like the deeper you go, the more it's like the time gets multiplied up or whatever.
Dilation, yeah.
But he didn't really die that long before Leonardo DiCaprio went down to find him again.
No, that's
like,
true.
It wasn't a very long time that could be multiple, because it's only one level lower. It's not like multiple levels lower, which is where it gets where it stacks the multiplication.
Well, it's implied that it's not really a level. It's more profound than just a level, another level, Limbo.
Yeah, they did make the point that it seems to last a very, very long time. Like even just compared to just one level down, where it's like 10 times slower or whatever.
Because him and his wife, when they went into Limbo for their entire lives and grow old together, they were lying on the floor of that apartment, and they can't have been lying there longer than the space between two meals, can they? Because otherwise they'd have starved. No. So it's more like half an hour equals 50 years or something, isn't it, at that point?
Yeah. But then it was like, how did they get back out from, like...
Yeah.
How did they escape Limbo without the kick? Well, it's like, at that point we said it was like, surely they must have just killed each other,
come out of it,
but known.
Well, yeah, that
was like if you know,
do you have to? Well, if you're in Limbo and you realise it, can you kill yourself and come out?
Yeah,
that was kind of what
they did though. That's kind of what
they suggested.
They did. They laid on the railway tracks while they were in Limbo and got run over, and that's what brought them back to reality, isn't it?
They kind of suggested that if you know if you know, you can get back out that way. But then he obviously that was the crux of the story, where it's like he inserted that suggestion into his wife's mind, and then she believed it in real life as well.
Well, what we think is real life, because they left out that lovely ending.
But of course, that's the classic. Like, was it real?
Was it real? I don't know. Because if it falls,
it was all a dream.
If it falls, that means it's reality. But it did wobble, so it was going to fall, wasn't it? I don't know.
I don't know. If it was kept up by what he expects the totem to do, because he was distracted, maybe it would have wobbled or fallen over anyway.
But if it stays spinning forever, that means it is a dream, doesn't it? So
yeah,
that's right.
We don't know.
Why does he use his wife's totem? Doesn't he have his own bloody totem?
Because
what happened to his totem?
Well, presumably he only developed that idea after the whole Limbo episode.
Maybe it's her idea, and I don't know. It's weird. Yes, so Inception, or
we just talked about film for a long time.
Basically, if you want Inception in one sentence, it's "Yo, dog, I heard you like dreams." So we put a dream inside your dream, so you could dream that you're dreaming while you're dreaming.
Yeah,
dog.
It was ridiculous.
Dog, yeah.
There was various other inconsistencies that we could go on about forever as well. But that's one of those things.
And also, fairly geniusly, it's, and this is a rarity these days, but I like it. It's a film that it will be definitely better off if nobody ever makes a sequel.
Yes, they damn well better not. It'd be very irritating if they do.
If someone attempts it, then it's going to just be awful and ruin the whole thing.
Because he's got to go and do Batman 3 at least before he even tries to do anything else with that franchise. I don't think he will, though, because he's obviously got a lot of reverence for it, because he's been planning that film for years and years, apparently.
It shows. It's so bloody complex.
Yeah, but you can follow it, though.
It's complex, but not impossible to follow, which is the best thing. But
even for all that planning, there's still those little things where you can start picking it apart.
Well, you never know. They might have been things that were cut for pacing, I guess.
Well, I think the gravity one was the main thing, though, wasn't it? The whole idea of the gravity, because it's like the van is falling off the bridge. So there's no gravity in the hotel, but why does that then not transmit down to the other levels as well? Because there's no gravity in the hotel, so surely there should be no gravity in the next one.
That's true. Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know. Because they could feel things.
Because it would have been totally fucked up for a long time then.
Yes, that would have made the whole thing a whole lot more difficult if there was no gravity in any of the further down levels.
Well, just imagine what would happen to all the snow.
Yeah.
Poof!
That really was like a computer game level, though, wasn't it? That snow.
Yeah.
It was pretty much something out of...
Oh, speaking of which, standout line from the A-Team film was, man, it looks totally like Call of Duty, doesn't it?
Lame.
Terrible.
Lame.
Oh, no, I really liked it. A-Team
Really?
was genius.
But what Call of Duty game are they referring to?
Modern Warfare 2. They're not talking about
that's not Call of Duty, though, is it?
They're not talking about the
Presumably they meant
best.
COD 4.
Yeah, I expect so.
It can't have been Modern Warfare 2. We can be safely assured of that, because that's not Call of Duty. As they've been so bloody annoyed to point out constantly.
It is labelled. They were going to not label it, but it is on the box, isn't it?
No.
Really?
Maybe.
It's on the box.
Probably depends on where you are. Depends on
that.
region or something. God knows.
Yeah, probably.
I know it's not on the side of the box.
Right, it just says Modern Warfare 2. Yeah. Is it Dirt 2 is just Dirt 2, isn't it? Now. There's no Colin
McRae.
No, yeah, I'm not sure. Actually, I can't remember. I think you're probably right. It probably isn't Colin McRae Dirt. No, or is it?
Well, the first game, it was Colin McRae Dirt in Europe, and then in America it was called Dirt.
Well, even then it was very tenuous link to Colin McRae anyway, because he didn't really have any sort of purpose in the game.
Yeah.
It was just
and
mentioned.
And then he conveniently died. Oh dear. so that means that you can just have Dirt 2 now.
Although he is brought up in Dirt 2 again, like
he?
mentioned by people like Ken Block and stuff as, yeah, man, he was great.
Oh,
that probably makes sense. Did he die while they were making Dirt 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of makes sense as sort of a,
A last
thing
hurrah.
you put in.
Speaking of which, have you, I read a tiny blurb about Dirt 3, which is in development now. It seems like they're skipping Grid 2 by the sounds of it.
Ooh.
Skipping it as in what?
As in,
they're
not making it. They're sort of moving straight to Dirt 3, and it seems like they're also dropping the slight extreme attitude that they brought to Dirt 3.
Wow, that got an actual echo on it, I think, through the feedback. So it sounded really cool. Awesome.
Extreme. Oh,
Yep, you can hear it. Here, carry on.
That's super sweet. That's like recycling, man.
Recycling to the extreme.
It's like recycling. By the way, how are we doing for time, actually?
We've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Yes, of course.
Are we going to have important grid discussion, or are we going to have...
Wait, I got the feeling I have to
random
shout this from some distance from the mic to make it slightly more traditional now. 5 minutes!
There we go. The warning is in. Okay.
That's our other Rob in the studio.
Yes.
Telling us it's 5 minutes to go.
This is Mexican Rob. Because, I've always wanted a Mexican cousin or something. It's not Rob, but it's Rob's Mexican cousin. 5 minutes, gringos!
Did I tell you guys about the Mexican connection that I had at Christmas?
No.
This is just totally a random thing to say.
Are you dealing drugs in Mexico?
Yeah. It was I was at my grandparents or whatever for Christmas at dinner.
And they suddenly turned around and went, "Hey, gringo."
No, they vote for the BNP. They're racist, remember?
Oh, yeah.
No, but it was they started talking about Family Tree or whatever, and it's like, oh, do you remember this guy or this person we used to live next to? All that family crap that people talk about at Christmas, as you do. But for some reason, the topic got on to one of our very few relatives who actually went overseas. It's like, oh, I looked up the family tree, and it turns out he was killed by a Mexican bandito. and everyone was just like, holy shit, Mexican bandito, that's awesome.
That is awesome. He's probably a character in Red Dead or something.
So that seemed to entertain most of our family for several minutes. Where it's like, holy shit, Mexican banditos.
Hey, gringo, do you like your life? Yes. I'll have it then.
So your name is Burgess. Burgess.
You know what Burgess means in Mexican? No. It means cockbite.
It means you will die.
It means you insult my mother. Say she is my sister.
Anyway. That was some random for you.
Thank you. We
really didn't talk about anything apart from what I played, and then sort of that phased into what Rob played.
No, that's fine because I'd played some Red
Faction
Faction and I'd played Mass Effect, didn't I? And other than that, we've only played TF2.
We didn't get the TF2 new map speaking, but I still haven't played it, so I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to talk about that. And I haven't played anything, so it's worked out quite well. But I will try and play some stuff for next time, despite the fact that I have no gaming equipment and won't have for a while.
I'm really not sure where the time's gone this week, to be honest.
No, that's what I was thinking. It was like, how have we talked for so long and not really said very much?
I've got to be honest, the tag list is looking fairly minuscule.
I'm not surprised.
Have you just not been paying attention?
No,
maybe. Usually we go off on a bit more of a sort of... We've been quite focused. Usually we go off on a sort of...
related games.
Yeah, around the tour ramble. But this week it's been pretty much Mass Effect central.
I think that's because I haven't been saying so much. I haven't been thinking of crazy topics because I've been letting you guys talk about Red Faction.
Perhaps we should have sort of said this at the start in big extreme voice or something that this is a spoilerific episode of the Saladcast.
Yeah, you have to put a note somewhere.
I'll put that on the blurb.
But there's you have various house rules on like how long you're allowed to, how long after something has come out before you can say spoilers.
Actually, well, remember it, Dan. You were going to talk about the future of the Saladcast. You have 60 seconds. Go.
Okay, well, I was telling Zach, but the plan is, if I can get it to work, is that you'll have you'll be able to, we'll be tagging the podcast, the actual time indexes, and you'll be able to go in and play clips of where we talk about various games, and then you can click on a game on the right-hand side or whatever, say Deus Ex, and it'll have all the clips of all the times we've talked about it, and you can listen to them in segments rather than listening to the whole podcast, and that way you get little quick fixes like YouTube for the internet generation that has a very short span of attention, and then you might get into the whole 2-hour podcast.
Genius. Well, that does sound good.
Like that 60 seconds.
It's going to be difficult.
Bits aside, and
technically difficult, but that's the plan. So coming soon.
That's
well,
how the
not
podcast
soon.
does it, isn't it?
No, no podcasts have done this. I've looked everywhere, and there are no good websites for podcasts.
We're going to be the first. God damn it.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure I've seen one where they have a timeline. Maybe it was like a video show or something, like on game trailers or something.
Yeah, I think that was
times where they talk about stuff.
I think there was like G4 TV or something. Video.
Wrap it up.
Yeah. Anyway. Bye, everybody.
Once again, just wrapping it up with a sudden ending.
Join us again.
Like now.